Hello everyone, and welcome to the Ben 10 What Ifs. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Ben 10 was the dragon god who carried the cursed flame F Olympus Ben 10 x Julie Yamamoto x Artemis Percy Jackson. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Embers of Destiny. Fire consumed everything in the dream. Not the chaotic, destructive inferno of a forest blaze or building collapse, but something ancient and purposeful. Ben Tennyson stood suspended in a void of stars and watched as serpentine shapes, massive beyond comprehension, coiled through the cosmos. Their scales refracted light that had never touched Earth, their eyes carried the wisdom of millennia. "You carry it within," a voice resonated, not in his ears but in his bones. Ben reached toward the largest dragon, a creature of impossible beauty whose scales shifted between obsidian and gold. "Carry what?" he asked. The dragon's massive eye, larger than a planet, focused on him. "The flame that was forbidden. The fire that will rewrite destiny." When the creature exhaled, stars were born in its breath. The golden embers drifted toward Ben, sinking into his skin. "Not burning, becoming. The time approaches when choices must be made," the voice continued as the dragons began to fade. "The flame recognizes its carrier." Ben's chest grew warm, then hot, then incandescent. Looking down, he saw his sternum glowing from within, light spilling through his ribcage. The omnitrix on his wrist pulsed in synchronization with this new internal radiance, its familiar green now threaded with gold. "What's happening to me?" he gasped. "You were remembering," came the answer. The heat intensified until Ben jolted awake, sheets tangled around his legs, sweat slicking his torso despite the autumn chill that had crept through his partially opened window. His heart hammered against his ribs as if trying to escape. 3:17 in the morning, the bedside clock informed him with unsympathetic red numerals. The dream again. Third time this week. Ben untangled himself from the damp sheets and padded to the bathroom of his modest apartment. College life had afforded him independence, though between classes and his continued responsibilities as wielder of the Omnitrix, luxuries remained sparse. Water splashed against his face, bracingly cold against still feverish skin. The mirror revealed nothing unusual. Same green eyes, same disheveled brown hair. Same 20-year-old face that carried more experience than most people twice his age. The only light came from the street lamp outside his window and the perpetual emerald glow of the Omnitrix. No golden radiance emanated from his chest. No cosmic wisdom revealed itself in his reflection. "Get it together, Tennyson," he muttered. "Just stress dreams." His phone buzzed on the bathroom Unter, a text notification that seemed bizarre at this hour. When he saw the sender, however, his heart performed a different kind of acceleration. "Julie. Back in Bellwood early. Can we meet?" Something's happened. Julie Yamamoto, his ex-girlfriend, though ex, had always felt like an inadequate description of what remained between them. International tennis phenom, the person who'd seen him at his worst and his best. She shouldn't be back for another 3 weeks according to her tour schedule, which Ben absolutely did not keep track of. His fingers hovered over the screen. Their last parting had been amicable enough, career paths diverging rather than hearts. Yet something in her message triggered the same unease as his dream. "Ben, you're up late. Everything okay? Come by tomorrow morning." The response came immediately, as if she'd been waiting with her phone in hand. "Julie. Thanks. 9 a.m. Bringing coffee. Save your questions for then." Ben stared at the cryptic message. Julie had never been one for dramatic mystery. Practical, straightforward, resilient. These were her hallmarks. Whatever had brought her back early and prompted this middle-of-the-night text must be significant. Sleep refused to return. Ben spent the remaining hours before dawn alternating between reviewing quantum mechanics notes for his morning class and mindlessly scrolling news feeds. A pattern emerged in the latter: increased reports of unusual weather phenomena, particularly electrical storms that seemed to defy meteorological explanation. One headline caught his attention: bizarre lightning formations reported across 5 continents, scientists baffled. The accompanying photo showed golden-hued lightning forming what appeared to be serpentine shapes against night skies. Ben's dream flashed through his mind, sending an involuntary shiver down his spine. Dash dash dash. Morning arrived with reluctant sunlight filtering through slate-colored clouds. The weather matched Bellwood's transition to autumn. Trees along the street outside Ben's apartment building had begun their chromatic shift to gold and crimson, while the air carried the first genuine bite of the coming cold. Ben had just finished showering when a firm knock echoed through his apartment. 9 o'clock exactly. Julie's punctuality remained unchanged. When he opened the door, familiar features registered first: the intelligent dark eyes, the determined set of her shoulders. Then, the differences: her black hair longer than he remembered, new lean muscle evident in her arms, a faint scar along her left jawline that hadn't been there before. She wore simple jeans and a navy jacket. Practical clothes that couldn't disguise the athletic grace of her movements. "Hey, stranger," she said, her voice soft but steady. 2 coffee cups balanced in a cardboard tray. "You look like you haven't slept." "Pot, kettle," Ben replied, noting the shadows beneath her eyes. He stepped aside. "Come in. It's good to see you, Julie." A ghost of her familiar smile appeared. "Even under weird circumstances. Especially under weird circumstances. That's kind of our thing." The apartment's small kitchen opened to an equally modest living area. Julie placed the coffee on the counter and leaned against it, studying him with the focused intensity she usually reserved for tournament opponents. "You're having the dreams too, aren't you?" she asked without preamble. The question hit like a physical blow. Ben froze with his coffee halfway to his lips. Dreams, dragons, fire that doesn't burn, stars being born and dying, a voice talking about some kind of flame. She recited these elements clinically, but her knuckles widened around her cup. "I started having them in Tokyo 3 weeks ago. Then Osaka. Then Sydney." Ben lowered himself onto a kitchen stool. "How did you know I didn't." "Not for certain." Julie took a deliberate sip of coffee. "But something told me to check. The same something that's been pushing me to return to Bellwood specifically. These dreams, they followed your tennis tour." Julie shook her head. "Not followed. Preceded. Each city I visited had experienced those strange electrical storms shortly before I arrived. The ones making headlines. The golden lightning," Ben murmured. "You've seen the reports. This morning." "But Julie, correlation doesn't mean." "I know what correlation means, Ben," she cut in, though without heat. "I've been taking university courses remotely too. But this isn't just statistical coincidence. Something's happening that connects to your watch." Ben's gaze dropped automatically to the Omnitrix. "What makes you think that?" "Because in the dreams, when the Dre always mention the carrier. And I see you, with the Omnitrix glowing gold instead of green." She set down her cup. "And because, say unusual things have started happening around me too." To demonstrate, Julie extended her palm. For a moment, nothing occurred. Then, with visible concentration, a faint blue luminescence gathered around her fingers, not quite flame, but something with similar properties, dancing and weaving between her knuckles. "That's new," Ben said, with characteristic understatement. Julie closed her fist, extinguishing the light. "Started after the first dream. I've been keeping it hidden, from coaches, teammates, everyone. But it's getting stronger." Ben was silent for a moment, processing. Then he stood and crossed to a bookshelf where various alien tech and souvenirs from past adventures sat alongside textbooks. He retrieved a small device resembling a handheld scanner. "Galvan Tech," he explained, catching Julie's questioning look. "Azimuth gave it to me for Omnitrix diagnostics." "May I?" She nodded, extending her arm. Ben ran the scanner over her hand, then frowned at the readout. "That's impossible." "Which part of this conversation strikes you as possible?" Julie asked dryly. "Your DNA is changing. Subtly, but definitely." He looked up from the scanner. "And the pattern matches certain markers that the Omnitrix recognizes as non-terrestrial." "I'm becoming alien." "Not exactly. The signatures don't match any species in the Omnitrix database. It's more like your DNA is remembering something it always had the potential to be." Ben ran his hand through his hair. "Which makes no sense." Julie's composure wavered for the first time. "Ben, I'm scared. Not just for me. These storms, these dreams, they feel like warnings. Or a countdown." Ben was about to respond when the Omnitrix emitted a series of urgent beeps, its face flashing between green and an unusual amber hue. The familiar voice of Ben's plumber badge followed from his jacket pocket. Ben Tennyson. Priority alert. Unidentified energy signatures detected at Bellwood University Research Center. Potential Level 8 threat. The former couple exchanged a look that communicated volumes, concern, resignation, and the muscle memory of partnership. Some things never change, Julie said, already moving toward the door. Ben grabbed his jacket. Want to sit this one out? You just got back and... Not a chance, Tennyson. Despite everything, the dreams, the mysteries, the faint dread curling in his stomach, Ben found himself smiling. Julie's determination had always been one of her most attractive qualities. Like old times, then, he said, following her out. Something tells me we're headed for something entirely new. Bellwood University's Research Center occupied a sprawling complex on the north side of campus. A cluster of modernist buildings housed various scientific departments, BU. The disturbance centered on the physics wing, specifically, the experimental energy laboratory where Ben had attended a lecture just last week. Campus security had already established a perimeter when Ben and Julie arrived. Students and faculty huddled behind makeshift barriers, while the distinctive vehicles of plumber agents lined the approach. The sky above had darkened ominously, clouds swirling in unnatural patterns. Rook Blanco, Ben's longtime partner, intercepted them before they reached the security line. The Ravanagonder's usual composed demeanor showed signs of strain. Ben dude, he greeted, still occasionally slipping into the Earth slang he had never quite mastered. The situation is most concerning. And Julie Yamamoto, you have returned earlier than anticipated. Good to see you too, Rook, Julie replied. What are we dealing with? Rook's feline features arranged themselves into a professional mask. Unknown entities materialized within the laboratory approximately 27 minutes ago. They appear humanoid but register as no known species. Their energy signatures are peculiar. Peculiar how? Ben pressed. They emit thermal radiation consistent with temperatures exceeding 3,000 degrees Celsius, yet their surroundings do not combust. And they are requesting you by name, Ben Tennyson. Ben felt Julie's gaze on him. Me specifically, or just whoever wields the Omnitrix. You, by birth name. They referred to you as the carrier of the forbidden flame. The phrase from Ben's dream hit like a physical blow. Beside him, Julie inhaled sharply. They've taken hostages, she asked. Rook nodded. 3 researchers. They have made no demands beyond speaking with Ben. Our attempts to neutralize them have failed. Even level 7 containment fields merely inconvenience them. Ben studied the building. No visible damage, no signs of conventional attack. Just the unnatural clouds above and the faint golden glow emanating from the laboratory windows. I'm going in, he decided. Ben, Julie began, concern evident. If they're asking for me, keeping hostages until they get what they want. Then it's obviously a trap, she finished. Ben shrugged. When isn't it? But those researchers don't deserve to be caught in the middle of whatever this is. He turned to Rook. Keep Julie safe. If this goes sideways, I can handle myself, Julie interrupted. That familiar stubborn set to her jaw. I know you can, but we don't know what these entities want, or what they can do. Ben held her gaze. Besides, if something happens to me, you might be the only one who understands what's really going on here. The logic was sound enough that Julie couldn't effectively argue, though her expression made it clear she wasn't happy about it. 10 minutes, she said. Then I'm coming in after you. Ben turned to the Omnitrix, cycling through his transformation options. Heat Blast should be able to withstand whatever temperatures these guys are putting out. He slammed his palm down on the device. Familiar energy coursed through him as his DNA reconfigured. But instead of the expected sensation of becoming a pyronite, something unusual happened. The transformation energy flared golden rather than green, and pain, real, searing pain that the Omnitrix transformations never caused, lanced through his chest. When the light faded, Ben found himself still mostly human, but with heat blasts flames dancing across his skin without consuming it. His hands, though still human in shape, rippled with controlled fire. What the? He gasped. staring at his transformed yet not transformed state. Ben. Rook's voice came as if from a distance. The Omnitrix appears to be malfunctioning. Ya think? Ben managed through gritted teeth. The fire didn't hurt exactly, but it buzzed through his nervous system like electricity seeking ground. I'm going in anyway. These guys want fire. I'll give them fire. Before anyone could stop him, Ben sprinted toward the building. The flames surrounding him intensified with each step, yet his clothes remained unburned, his skin unharmed. Power thrummed through him, not the familiar strength of his alien transformations, but something deeper, as if awakening from his very cells. The research center's doors slid open at his approach. Inside, the temperature dramatically increased, though Ben found it oddly comfortable despite the partial transformation. The corridor leading to the main laboratory was empty, illuminated by emergency lighting and the golden glow emanating from beneath the lab doors ahead. Ben paused, focusing on controlling the flames dancing across his skin. With concentration, he managed to reduce them to a subtle shimmer, like heat waves on summer pavement. "Hello," he called out. "I'm Ben Tennyson. I hear you've been asking for me." The laboratory doors slid open silently. Inside, 3 figures stood with their backs to him, facing the cowering researchers who huddled beneath the desk. The entities appeared humanoid but stretched too tall, too thin, proportions just wrong enough to trigger instinctive unease. Their skin gleamed like polished brass, and flames surrounding Ben danced across their forms. "The carrier approaches," said the central figure, its voice resonating with the same quality Ben had heard in his dreams. It turned, revealing features that were hauntingly human yet decidedly not. Eyes too large, cheekbones too sharp, mouth too wide when it smiled. "The one who bears the forbidden flame." "I don't know what you're talking about," Ben said, stepping fully into the laboratory. "But I do know you're scaring those people. Let them go, and we can talk about whatever you think I'm carrying." The 3 entities exchanged glances. "He does not know," said the one on the left, its voice higher, almost musical. "The awakening is incomplete," agreed the one on the right, deeper and rougher. The central figure stepped forward. Now, Ben could see it wore what appeared to be armor fashioned from the same brassy material as its skin, adorned with symbols that shifted and changed as he watched. "I am Pyrothean," it said. "These are my siblings, Emberus and Ashrax. We are the Flamebringers, servants of the dragon gods." Still not following, Ben replied, though a chill ran through him despite the heat. "Dragon gods, like in his dreams. Why don't you start with why you're here and what you want with me?" Pyrothean tilted its head at an uncomfortable angle. "We have come because the flame within you has begun to awaken. The forbidden fire of creation that Zeus thought he had contained. We serve its true wielder. Look, I'm not carrying any forbidden flame. I'm just a guy with a watch that lets me transform into aliens." Ben took another step forward, the fire around his hands intensifying despite his attempts to control it. "Whatever you think I am, you've got the wrong person." "The Omnitrix," said Emberus, the feminine-voiced entity. "A tool of transformation, yes. But it has recognized what sleeps in your blood. The legacy older than the gods themselves. The dragons that shaped the cosmos," added Ashrax. "Their last descendant walks in human form." Ben fought to maintain his composure. These beings were describing his dreams with disturbing accuracy. "Even if I believed any of this, which I don't, what do you want from me?" "We have come to protect you," Pyrothean said. "And to warn you. Others have sensed your awakening. The Olympians move against you already. Zeus fears what your return represents." "Zeus, as in lightning bolt, king of the gods Zeus." Ben couldn't keep the skepticism from his voice. "Greek mythology is just that, mythology." The temperature in the room suddenly spiked. The 3 entities' flames burned higher, their expressions hardening. "You stand transformed by the very fire of creation, denying the existence of gods." Ashrax growled, "Your ignorance endangers everyone around you." As if to emphasize the point, a tremendous crack of thunder shook the building. Through the laboratory windows, Ben could see the unnatural storm clouds had darkened further, now churning with unmistakable purpose. "That storm isn't natural," he admitted. "But that doesn't mean—" "The thunderer approaches," Emberus interrupted, urgency in her melodic voice. "We have lingered too long." Pyrotheon reached into a pouch at his waist and withdrew an object that glinted gold in the fiery light, a medallion inscribed with the same shifting symbols as his armor. "Take this," he said, extending it toward Ben. "When you are ready to accept the truth of your nature, this will guide you to us." Ben hesitated, then reached for the medallion. As his fingers closed around it, the partial heat blast transformation suddenly intensified. The fire surrounding him roared higher, changing from orange to gold to white-hot blue. Pain lanced through his chest again, centered on his sternum. "What's happening to me?" he gasped, dropping to one knee. "The flame recognizes its true vessel," Pyrotheon said, stepping back. "We must leave you now. Remember, carrier, trust no Olympian. They fear what you represent." The three entities began to shimmer, their forms becoming translucent. "Wait," Ben called through gritted teeth, fighting the burning sensation spreading through his body. "What about these people, the researchers?" "They are unharmed," Emberus assured him. "We merely needed to ensure your arrival." "Find the descendant of Eastern dragons," Ashrax added cryptically. "She already walks your path." Before Ben could question this, another deafening thunderclap shook the building. The laboratory windows shattered inward, and a gust of electrically charged air swept through the room. When Ben looked up again, the three flame entities had vanished. The pain subsided as quickly as it had come, and the partial transformation receded. Ben found himself fully human again, kneeling on the laboratory floor with the golden medallion clutched in his hand. The researchers emerged cautiously from their hiding place. "Are you all right?" Ben asked them, rising unsteadily to his feet. The oldest of the three, a woman with steel-gray hair and calm eyes despite the situation, approached him. "We're unharmed, Mr. Tennyson. But those beings, they were most interested in the results of our recent experiments." "What experiments?" "Theoretical dimensional physics. We've been recording unusual energy fluctuations between realities." She gestured to equipment around the lab. "Something is thinning the barriers between dimensions, specifically, between our world and another plane that shares our physical space but operates under different natural laws." "Like a parallel Earth?" Ben asked, familiar with the concept from past adventures. "Not exactly. More like a realm that exists alongside ours but follows different rules. A place where belief shapes reality." Her scientific detachment faltered slightly. "If I were less empirical in my thinking, I might describe it as the realm of mythology," Ben finished, the medallion suddenly feeling heavier in his palm. The researcher nodded reluctantly. "Those beings asked specifically about fluctuations near Mount Olympus in Greece, and several other locations associated with ancient myths." Before Ben could process this information, Julie and Rook burst through the laboratory doors, expressions tense and ready for combat. "Ben," Julie exclaimed, taking in his now normal appearance and the shattered windows. "What happened?" "The storm just suddenly dissipated, and our scanners showed the energy signatures vanishing." "They're gone," Ben confirmed, pocketing the medallion before anyone could question it. "Something told him to keep it private for now. Said they came to warn me, then disappeared when the storm intensified." "Warn you about what?" Rook asked, his plumber issue scanner sweeping the room for residual energy. Ben hesitated, glancing at the researchers. "Let's get these people debriefed and safe first. Then we need to talk, privately." Julie's eyes narrowed slightly at his evasion, but she nodded. As they escorted the researchers from the laboratory, Ben noticed her rubbing her left hand, where earlier she had manifested that strange blue light. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "It's getting stronger," she whispered back. "When those thunder sounds happened, it was all I could do to keep it contained." "And Ben?" "I heard voices in my head, speaking Japanese, but like ancient Japanese." The researcher's words echoed in Ben's mind. "Find the descendant of Eastern dragons." He recalled Ashrax's final cryptic statement. "We need to figure this out fast," he murmured. "I think we're both changing. And I don't think we have much time to understand why." The plumber base beneath Bellwood provided the privacy they needed. Ben, Julie, and Rook gathered in a secure conference room. Joined by Gwen Tennyson, who had teleported in from her university across the country after Ben's urgent call. "Let me get this straight," Gwen said after Ben finished recounting the encounter. "Flame beings claiming to serve dragon gods, told you that you're carrying some kind of forbidden fire that Zeus wants to eliminate, the omignizing this, and Julie is developing powers potentially connected to Eastern dragon mythology. That about covers it, Ben confirmed. And you didn't think to mention the medallion until now, Julie added pointedly. Ben sighed and withdrew the golden disc from his pocket. In the plumber base's stark lighting, the symbols etched into its surface seemed to shift and dance like flames. I can't explain why, but something told me to keep it between us. He placed it on the conference table. Anyone else feel like we're being manipulated into some kind of mythological conflict? Gwen leaned forward, her anodite senses clearly detecting something from the artifact. This medallion, it's emanating mana unlike anything I've encountered. Not magic as I understand it, but something older. Can you read the symbols? Rook asked. They're not staying still enough, Gwen admitted, but they feel familiar somehow, like something I've seen in very ancient texts. Julie cautiously extended her hand toward the medallion, then jerked back when the blue luminescence spontaneously appeared around her fingers. It's reacting to you, Ben observed. Not just to me. Julie nodded toward the Omnitrix, which had begun pulsing with that same amber hue again. Gwen looked between them, her analytical mind visibly processing. Your dreams started independently, in different parts of the world. These flame beings specifically sought Ben out. The Omnitrix is behaving unusually. And now Julie is manifesting powers. You're thinking this isn't coincidence, Ben said. I'm thinking this has been in motion for longer than we realize. Gwen activated the conference room's holographic display. Let me show you something. Images appeared. News reports of the unusual electrical storms, yes, but also archaeological findings, ancient texts, and historical accounts from across cultures. I've been researching legends that predate the classical Greek pantheon, Gwen explained. Stories of beings that existed before Zeus and the Olympians took power. Most mythologies have them, Titans in Greek myth, Jotun in Norse, and so on. But there's an even earlier layer of beings mentioned in fragments of pre-Homeric texts. G.H. lighted several ancient script passages. References to the scaled ones who breathed creation into being appear in Mediterranean texts dating back nearly 5,000 years. Similar descriptions exist in early Chinese, Mesopotamian, and even Olmec writings. Dragons, Julie murmured. The original cosmic force. According to these texts, yes. And consistently across cultures, these Draken I see entities are associated with fire, specifically, the first fire, the spark of creation itself. Gwen switched to another image, an ancient pottery fragment showing a serpentine creature breathing flames toward humanoid figures. The most consistent narrative suggests these dragons gifted fire to the emerging cosmos, but the newer gods, particularly those associated with sky and thunder, saw this as a threat to their dominance. So Zeus and his equivalents in other pantheons suppressed dragon worship and rewrote the narrative, Ben theorized. The Prometheus myth, Rook suggested. The story of fire being stolen from the gods and given to humanity. Exactly, Gwen nodded. What if Prometheus wasn't the original fire bringer? What if that myth was created to replace an older, more threatening truth? Ben stared at the medallion. That I'm somehow connected to these ancient dragons. That's a stretch even for us, Gwen. Is it? She gestured to the Omnitrix. That device contains the DNA of species from across the galaxy. We've encountered beings that exist across dimensions and outside of time. Is it really so impossible that mythological entities might have a basis in reality? Beings that early humans interpreted through a supernatural lens. The conference room fell silent as they considered this possibility. Finally, Julie spoke. The Japanese have a complex dragon mythology. Dragons associated with water primarily, but also with wisdom and transformation. She flexed her fingers, watching the faint blue light dance between them. My grandmother used to tell stories about our family being descended from dragon blood. I always thought they were just folktales. So what now? Ben asked. We just accept that I'm carrying some cosmic flame that predates Greek mythology. And Julie is tapping into her dragon ancestry. That's a lot to swallow. We investigate, Gwen said firmly. Starting with this medallion, and the locations the flame beings mentioned, places where the barriers between dimensions are thinning. Mount Olympus, Rook noted. The actual mountain in Greece. Ben picked up the medallion, turning it over in his hand. The moment his fingers closed around it, the symbols stopped shifting and aligned into a clear pattern, a map, with several points illuminated across the globe. One pulsed brighter than the others, directly over their current location in Bellwood. "I think the medallion is showing us where to go," he said. "And apparently, whatever we're looking for starts right here." As if in response to his words, the entire plumber base shuddered. Warning klaxons blared, and the emergency lighting activated. "Perimeter breach in Sector 7, announced the automated security system. Unknown energy signature detected." The four exchanged looks of alarm. Sector 7 housed the base's dimensional monitoring equipment, technology designed to detect incursions from other realities. "Someone else is looking for answers," Julie said grimly. Ben activated the Omnitrix, cycling through his transformation options. This time, he selected XLR8. Speed would be useful in assessing the threat. "Let's go find out who." When he slammed down on the dial, however, the same strange phenomenon occurred. Instead of a complete transformation, Ben's form blurred with aspects of XLR8, the enhanced leg muscles, the perceptual shifts of a decelerated time, while remaining recognizably human. Golden energy crackled around him. "The Omnitrix isn't malfunctioning," Gwen realized, eyes widening. "It's evolving, adapting to whatever is awakening in you." Ben flexed his partially transformed limbs, feeling power surge through him unlike anything he'd experienced before, not the borrowed abilities of alien DNA, but something emerging from within. "Whatever's happening," he said, voice vibrating with suppressed energy, "I'm done being a step behind it. Time to get some real answers." With that, he shot forward at impossible speed, leaving the conference room in a blur of golden light. Julie's voice called after him, but momentum and determination carried him onward. The dreams, the flame beings, the medallion, all pieces of a puzzle he was determined to solve. As he raced through the plumber base corridors, Ben felt something shift within him. The speed wasn't just physical, his thoughts accelerated too, connections forming with crystal clarity. The partial transformation felt different from anything the Omnitrix had ever given him. More integrated, more natural, like remembering something his body had always known how to do. He skidded to a halt outside Sector 7, where plumber agents had established a defensive perimeter. Through the reinforced viewing window, Ben could see the source of the alarm, a swirling vort. X of golden energy had formed in the center of the monitoring room, and a figure was stepping through. Unlike the flame beings from the university, this newcomer appeared perfectly human, a woman in her early 20s with copper-red hair and eyes that glowed with inner fire. She wore what looked like modernized Greek battle armor, burnished bronze over practical black clothing. A bow and quiver adorned her back, though the arrows emitted the same golden energy as the portal. The woman surveyed the plumbers, weapons with casual disdain, then spoke in a voice that carried despite the barriers between them. "I seek the dragon's heir. The one who carries the cursed flame of Olympus." Then locked onto Ben with unnerving precision despite the distance and obstacles. "There you are." The partial XLR8 transformation faded as Ben stepped forward, placing himself between the mystery woman and the plumber agents. "And you are?" he asked, keeping his tone level despite the adrenaline coursing through him. The woman straightened, pride evident in her bearing. "I am Astra Ignis, daughter of Prometheus, keeper of the divine flame's memory." Her eyes narrowed. "And I've come to determine whether you represent salvation or destruction for us all, Ben Tennyson." Behind him, Ben heard Julie, Gwen, and Rook arrive. The medallion in his pocket grew warm against his thigh, the sensation spreading upward toward his chest where the dreams had shown golden fire emerging from within. "Prometheus," he repeated, "as in, the myth we were just discussing." Astra's lips curved into a knowing smile. "There is very little myth in the stories humans tell themselves about the gods, dragon's heir. Only convenient revisions of inconvenient truths." She approached the barrier separating them, placing her palm against it. Where she touched, the material began to glow and soften. "The boundaries between worlds grow thinner by the hour," she continued. "Olympus stirs." The ancient compact phrase. "And you." Her gaze intensified, seeming to look through Ben rather than at him. "You carry the flame that could rewrite creation itself." "I don't want to rewrite anything," Ben said firmly. I just want answers. Then perhaps we can help each other. With a final push, Astra stepped through the now permeable barrier as if it were no more substantial than mist. Because war is coming, Ben Tennyson. A war between gods and dragons that will consume your world as collateral damage, unless the flame carrier and the eastern dragon stand together once more. Her gaze shifted to Julie, who had stepped forward to stand beside Ben. The cycle begins again, as it was foretold. The question remains, will you embrace your legacy, or will you let history repeat its tragedy? The medallion burned hotter in Ben's pocket, and without thinking, he drew it out. In his palm, the symbols rearranged once more, forming a clear image. 2 dragons, one eastern and one western, circling a central flame. Begin at the beginning, Astra said, gesturing to the medallion. The answers you seek lie where the first spark was kindled. Outside the base, thunder rumbled, too loud, too purposeful to be natural. The lights flickered, and for an instant, Ben thought he saw something massive move across the sky through the small observation window, something with scales that reflected lightning. They're coming, Astra whispered, genuine fear flickering across her features. Sooner than I anticipated. We must go, now. Go where? Julie demanded. To the one place Zeus cannot follow. The birthplace of the flame. Astra extended her hands toward Ben and Julie. The dragon's sanctuary. Ben hesitated, looking at his friends. Gwen stepped forward. This could be another manipulation, she warned. Or our only chance to get ahead of whatever's happening, Ben countered. He turned to Julie. Your call. We do this together or not at all. Julie studied Astra, then glanced at her own hand where the blue energy still shimmered faintly. I need to understand what's happening to me. To us. She took Ben's hand, their fingers intertwining with familiar ease despite the years apart. Together, they turned to Astra. Take us to this sanctuary, Ben said. But understand something. I protect this world. If this is some kind of trick. No trick, Dragon's heir, Astra assured him, taking their joined hands in hers. Only the truth that was hidden from you, from all humanity, for millennia. Golden light began to spiral around them, rising from the medallion in Ben's hand and from something deep within his chest. Julie gasped as blue energy simultaneously emerged from her, intertwining with the gold in a double helix of power. Remember, Astra said as the energies intensified, the world around them beginning to fade. In the coming days, trust your instincts. The flame remembers what the mind has forgotten. The last thing Ben saw before reality dissolved around them was Gwen's worried face in the sky outside the window, where impossible lightning formed the unmistakable silhouette of a bearded man wielding a thunderbolt, his expression one of ancient rage. Then they were gone, pulled between dimensions toward whatever truth awaited them, and whatever destiny had selected Ben Tennyson to carry a flame older than the gods themselves. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Scales of Truth. Sunlight fractured against the Aegean Sea 3,000 feet below, transforming ordinary waves into diamonds scattered across blue velvet. Mount Olympus dominated the horizon, not the mythological home of gods floating among clouds, but the very real mountain range whose highest peak, Mytikos, thrust defiantly skyward. Ancient Greeks had imagined their deities dwelling atop this unreachable summit, its crown perpetually shrouded in mist. They never suspected what truly resided within. Astra guided their descent along the mountain's less traveled eastern face, where steep granite cliffs discouraged casual hikers and tourists. Her movements possessed the sure-footed confidence of someone who had traversed this path countless times before. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the rocky terrain, transforming ordinary geological features into creatures of imagination, or perhaps memory. The Olympians claimed this mountain as their seat of power during what humans call the Bronze Age, she explained. Voice carrying clearly despite the wind whistling through stone crevices. But it was sacred ground long before Zeus hurled his first thunderbolt. Ben followed several paces behind, the medallion now hanging from a cord around his neck, its surface warm against his skin. 24 hours earlier, he'd been worried about his quantum mechanics midterm. Now he was scaling the mythological home of Greek gods, guided by a woman claiming to be Prometheus's daughter, while something ancient awakened within him. The absurdity might have made him laugh if not for the gravity. Tie in Astra's tone and the persistent burning sensation in his chest. You still haven't explained how we traveled from Bellwood to Greece instantly, Julie noted, bringing up the rear. Her athletic conditioning made the climb look effortless, though occasionally Ben caught blue energy flickering around her fingers when she gripped particularly challenging handholds. That wasn't teleportation technology I'm familiar with. Astra paused on a narrow ledge, copper hair whipping across her face in the mountain breeze. The medallion is a key to pathways that existed before the separation of realms. Dragons moved between worlds as easily as humans move between rooms. Her gaze shifted to Ben. And those with dragon blood retain fragments of that ability, especially when the barriers grow thin. If I have this dragon blood, Ben questioned, why am I only experiencing these changes now? I've been using the Omnitrix for years. The cosmic alignment approaches completion, Astra replied cryptically. The cycle turns once more. And the Omnitrix, she nodded toward the device on his wrist, which had been alternating between green and amber hues since their arrival in Greece. It contains the genetic codes of countless species. Perhaps it recognized the awakening dragon aspects in your DNA and is adapting accordingly. Julie frowned. That's not how the Omnitrix works. No one truly understands how it works. Astra countered. Not even its creator comprehended its full potential. Some technologies transcend their creator's intentions. Before either could respond, she turned and continued upward toward a sheer rock face that appeared to block further progress. When they reached it, Astra placed her palm against the stone. Golden light similar to the portal energy spread from her touch, revealing draconic figures circling a central flame. The sanctuary entrance, she murmured, sealed for millennia against Olympian eyes. The medallion at Ben's chest suddenly pulsed with matching light. Without conscious decision, Ben found himself stepping forward, his hand rising to press against the stone beside Astra's. The burning sensation in his chest intensified, and for an instant, he glimpsed scales rippling beneath his skin, golden, translucent, there and gone in a heartbeat. The stone face shimmered, then simply ceased to exist, revealing a passage that logic insisted couldn't possibly fit within the mountain's natural structure. Cool air carried scents of ancient stone and something else, a clean, electric smell like the aftermath of lightning. After you, dragon's heir, Astra said, stepping aside. Ben hesitated at the threshold. What exactly are we going to find in there? Truth, she answered simply. The history that Olympus attempted to erase. Julie moved to stand beside Ben, her shoulder brushing his in silent solidarity. The contact steadied him, as it always had during their years together. Together, she said quietly. Ben nodded, and they stepped through. The passage shouldn't have been illuminated. No electricity, no torches, no visible light source of any kind, yet a diffuse golden glow permeated the space, emanating seemingly from the stone itself. The corridor extended deeper than external geometry should have allowed, descending in a gentle spiral that carried them into the mountain's heart. We're moving between dimensions, Ben realized, noticing how certain sections of the passageway briefly shimmered with translucency. This isn't just a physical tunnel. The sanctuary exists simultaneously in our world and in what humans once called the realm of the gods, Astra confirmed. Neither fully in one nor the other. A neutral ground established during the first compact between dragons and the emerging divine pantheons. The passage eventually opened into a vast circular chamber that defied rational explanation. The ceiling arched hundreds of feet overhead, depicting celestial constellations unknown to modern astronomy. The walls featured intricate murals showing serpentine figures soaring through primordial chaos, breathing golden fire that coalesced into stars, planets, and eventually, life itself. At the chamber's center stood a circular dais of obsidian veined with gold, surrounded by 7 pillars carved to resemble stylized dragons from various cultural traditions, Eastern, Western, Mesoamerican, African, and others Ben couldn't immediately identify. Each pillar supported a basin containing different colored flames that burned without fuel or smoke. The council chamber, Astra said, her voice hushed with reverence, where the 7 dragon lineages once gathered to guide creation's early days. Julie approached one of the pillars, the eastern dragon with its sinuous form and pearl-clasped jaw. The blue flame in its basin leapt higher as she neared, responding to her presence. I feel connected to this, she whispered, the blue energy around her hands intensifying to match the basin's flame. The azure dragon of the east, Astra explained. Guardian of wisdom, transformation, and the sacred waters. Its bloodline runs through your family, Julie Yamamoto. Diluted through generations, but awakening now as the cycle turns. Ben moved toward another pillar, a western dragon with powerful wings and golden scales. Its basin contained flame the exact color of the energy that had surrounded him during his partial transformations. As he approached, the fire roared upward, and the burning in his chest synchronized with its pulsations. And this one is connected to me, he said. Not a question but a realization. The golden dragon of the west, Astra confirmed. Bearer of the flame of creation, the fire that kindled consciousness itself. She stepped onto the central dais. It is time you learned the truth that Zeus concealed, the history of your lineage and the real reason the Olympians fear your awakening. She raised her hands, and the 7 flames responded, stretching upward to merge above the dais. Their combined light projected images in the air, moving, 3-dimensional scenes playing out like the most advanced holographic technology, yet clearly powered by something far older. Before the gods, before human civilization, before recorded history, Astra began as the images showed a cosmos in formation. Dragons emerged from the primordial chaos. Not the simple beasts of later human mythology, but cosmic entities of consciousness and purpose. They breathed the first fire, the flame of creation, which kindled the stars and ignited the spark of conscious life throughout the universe. The holographic display shifted to show 7 dragon figures breathing golden flame onto a barren world that gradually bloomed with life. Each Drago lineage guarded different aspects of creation. The golden dragon carried the primary flame, the fire that granted consciousness, free will, and the capacity for growth. The image focused on a magnificent golden dragon whose scales refracted light into infinite patterns. The others maintained balance: water, earth, wisdom, transformation, abundance, and protection. So where do the Greek gods come in? Ben asked. Transfixed by the display, the images shifted again, showing humanoid figures emerging from the newly created world, growing in power and awareness. As creation flourished, new beings arose, entities formed from the elements and concepts the dragons had breathed into existence. These beings, whom humans would later call gods, gradually developed their own consciousness and ambitions. The display showed these divine figures gathering, organizing into pantheons. At first, they worked in harmony with their dragon creators, maintaining different aspects of the world's balance. The scene darkened, showing conflict as a bearded figure wielding lightning confronted the golden dragon. But Zeus, who had risen to prominence among the sky deities, grew jealous of the dragon's primacy. He particularly coveted the power of the golden flame, the ability to create consciousness itself, to shape reality at its most fundamental level. Astra's voice tightened with controlled emotion. He led a rebellion against the dragons, convincing other pantheons that they should rule creation, not merely maintain it. The holographic display showed epic battles between dragons and gods that reshaped landscapes, shattered mountains, and boiled oceans. The dragon war lasted centuries by human reckoning. The gods, though younger, were numerous and crafty. They created weapons specifically designed to harm draconic entities, god-forged metals and divine magic that could pierce even scales that had withstood the birth of stars. Julie gasped as the display showed the golden dragon falling from the sky, wounded by Zeus's lightning bolt. They killed them. Astra shook her head. Not killed. The cosmic dragons couldn't truly die, their essence was too intrinsically woven into creation itself. But they could be diminished, bound, their consciousness fragmented. Her gaze turned to Ben. The golden dragon, wounded and weakened, made a desperate choice to preserve the flame of creation from Zeus's grasp. It concealed its essence in the flame within a bloodline of beings Zeus would consider too insignificant to monitor closely. Humans, Ben whispered, the burning in his chest flaring with understanding. Yes, the dragon consciousness and flame were hidden within human DNA, designed to remain dormant for thousands of years, passing invisibly from generation to generation. The display showed a simple human family, unaware of the cosmic power hidden within their bloodline. To further conceal this plan, the other dragon lineages did the same with their essences, scattering them among different human populations across the world. The images shifted to show Zeus and the Olympians celebrating their apparent victory, established Mount Olympus. To cement their new order, the Olympians rewrote history. They created the myth of Prometheus stealing fire from the gods to give to humanity, inverting the truth that fire had always belonged to the dragons first. The Y systematically eliminated draconic symbols from worship and replaced them with their own iconography. Astra's expression hardened, and they established a covenant with other pantheons. Any sign of dragon re-emergence would be immediately extinguished. The display showed divine hunters tracking down and eliminating humans who showed signs of draconic traits across centuries. My father, Prometheus, was actually a lesser deity who had witnessed the truth. His punishment, being chained to a rock with an eagle devouring his liver daily, was not for giving fire to humans, but for trying to the true history of the flame's origin. Astra's voice carried millennia of inherited grief. The Olympians made him the central figure of their revised myth to further obscure the dragon's role. The holographic display finally showed the present day, strange weather patterns, thinning dimensional barriers, and dormant dragon essences beginning to stir within certain humans across the globe. But cosmic cycles cannot be broken forever, Astra continued. Every 7,000 years, the alignment of celestial forces weakens the bindings placed on the dragon essences. The draconic consciousness begins to reawaken within its human carriers. She looked directly at Ben. You, Ben Tennyson, carry the primary fragment of the golden dragon's consciousness and the flame of creation itself. The Omnitrix, with its connection to fundamental DNA structures across species, has inadvertently accelerated your awakening. Ben stared at his hands, remembering the glimpses of scales beneath his skin. And Julie carries a fragment of the Azure Dragon of the East, Astra confirmed. The convergence of your bloodlines is no cosmic accident. East and West, water and fire, your connection represents the potential for balance that the original dragons maintained before the sundering. Julie stepped closer to the display, watching blue energy coil around her fingers with new understanding. My grandmother's stories. She always said our family had dragon blood. I thought it was just a cultural expression. Many human myths contain fragments of the truth, preserved through oral traditions when written records were purged. Astra replied. The dragons ensured their human vessels would retain some instinctive connection to their heritage, even if the conscious knowledge was lost. Ben moved back to the central dais, feeling the weight of this revelation. So I'm what? Destined to turn into a giant cosmic dragon and fight Zeus. The awakening doesn't work that way, Astra explained, dismissing the holographic display with a gesture. The dragon consciousness integrates with your human identity, it doesn't replace it. You remain Ben Tennyson, but with access to abilities and awareness beyond normal human capacity. She paused, studying him. Though the process is usually more gradual than what you're experiencing, the Omnitrix seems to be accelerating your transformation. As if on cue, the device on Ben's wrist pulsed brightly, its faceplate reconfiguring with new patterns that incorporated draconic symbols alongside the familiar alien silhouettes. It's adapting, Ben realized. Integrating my emerging dragon DNA with the alien transformations. A development neither the Olympians nor I anticipated, Astra admitted. Your unique circumstance may be why Zeus has taken direct interest rather than sending lesser hunters. You represent an unprecedented variable in the awakening cycle. Julie had been silent, processing this information. Now she looked up sharply. These hunters, are they after Ben specifically, or anyone with dragon blood? Astra's expression grew grave. Both. The primary dragon vessel, you, Ben, is their highest priority. But any emerging draconic bloodlines are targeted. She turned to Julie. Including yours. Great, Ben muttered. So we've got Greek gods hunting us, I'm turning into some kind of dragon-human hybrid, and the Omnitrix is evolving into something new. Just another Tuesday. Despite his flippant tone, his eyes reflected the gravity of their situation. What happens now? Before Astra could answer, a subtle vibration ran through the chamber. The flames in the 7 basins flickered anxiously, and a low, resonant tone, like massive crystal being struck, echoed through the sanctuary. We have company, Astra said, reaching for her bow. The barriers have been breached. Zeus? Julie asked, instinctively moving into a defensive stance. No, the sanctuary still repels full Olympians. Astra nocked an arrow that ignited with golden energy. But their hunters can enter. Those with lesser divinity or special dispensation. Ben activated the Omnitrix, cycling through its transformed interface. The alien silhouettes remained, but now each bore subtle draconic elements. Time to see what this new version can do. He selected Diamond Head, whose crystalline structure might provide protection against whatever was coming. When he slammed down the dial, however, the transformation again remained partial. His body crystallized like diamond heads but maintained human proportions and features. Golden energy coursed through the crystal lattice, making it glow from within. This half-transformation thing is getting old, Ben growled, testing his modified arms. Despite his complaint, he could feel extraordinary power flowing through him, the crystalline structure enhanced by something deeper and more primal than alien DNA. A thunderous impact shook the entrance tunnel, followed by another. Whatever approached wasn't bothering with stealth. Prepare yourselves, Astra warned, taking position behind one of the pillars. Olympian hunters are trained specifically to combat draconic energies. Julie concentrated, and the blue energy around her hands intensified, forming what resembled claws of azure light. Any tactical advice? Stay mobile, Astra replied. And whatever you do, don't let them wound you with celestial bronze. It disrupts the connection between your human and dragon aspects. The chamber entrance exploded inward, showering the sanctuary with stone fragments. Through the deuce, and debris emerged 3 figures, 2 male, 1 female, clad in modernized versions of ancient Greek armor. They carried a variety of weapons, all gleaming with the distinctive red-gold sheen of celestial bronze. In the name of Olympus, announced the lead hunter, a man with close-cropped dark hair and eyes that glowed faintly silver. I, Orion, claim the dragon vessels for judgment. Orion, Ben questioned, recognizing the name from mythology. The constellation guy. The hunter's expression hardened. My reward for faithful service was ascension to the stars. My duty remains hunting aberrations that threaten cosmic order. His gaze locked onto Ben with predatory focus. Like you, dragon spawn. Aberration. Ben stepped forward, crystal arms reflecting the chamber's golden light. Quote, that's rich coming from someone working for gods who rewrote history to hide the truth. Orion's companions flanked him, the woman notching an arrow in a silver-inlaid bow, the second man uncoiling a whip that writhed like a living thing. Truth is determined by victory, Orion stated coldly. The dragons lost their war. The Olympians rule. That is the only truth that matters. He drew twin hunting knives that glowed with lethal purpose. Surrender the dragon essence, and your human form may be permitted to survive. Hard pass, Ben replied, dropping into a combat stance. Julie, right behind you, she confirmed. Blue energy swirling more intensely around her hands. Astra released her first arrow, which split midair into 3 golden projectiles. The female hunter countered with her own shot, the arrows colliding in a spectacular flash that temporarily blinded everyone in the chamber. Chaos erupted. Orion launched himself at Ben with inhuman speed, celestial bronze blades C. King vulnerabilities in his crystalline form. Ben's partial diamond head transformation granted him enhanced strength and durability, but Orion moved with the practiced precision of someone who had hunted dangerous prey for millennia. Your dragon essence remembers me, Orion growled as their battle carried them across the chamber. I've hunted your kind through a dozen cycles of re-emergence. Ben blocked a knife strike that would have pierced his shoulder, the celestial bronze screeching against his crystal arm. Then you should know we don't go down easy. He counterattacked, using Diamond Head's crystal manipulation abilities to create blade-like projections from his forearms. The hybrid transformation responded differently than the pure alien form would have. The crystals formed with draconic patterns, and golden energy pulsed through them like liquid fire. Across the chamber, Julie confronted the hunter with the living whip. Her tennis training and natural athleticism served her well, allowing her to evade the weapon's strikes with graceful precision. The blue dragon energy surrounding her hands had extended further, now enveloping her arms to the elbow and forming protective scales that deflected glancing blows. Your bloodline is diluted, Eastern vessel, the whip wielder taunted. You barely register as draconic. Julie didn't waste breath responding. Instead, she feinted left, then executed a perfect tennis serve motion. The blue energy gathered in her palm compressed, then launched forward like a spectral projectile that caught her opponent squarely in the chest. The impact sent him crashing into one of the pillars. "Tennis International Circuit," she said with grim satisfaction. "You learn to put some power behind your serve." Astra remained engaged with the female archer, their battle becoming an intricate dance of golden and silver projectiles that never quite reached their targets, intercepting each other in midair with uncanny precision. "Traitor to your father's memory," the Olympian archer hissed. "Prometheus suffered for defying Zeus, yet you court the same fate." "My father suffered for telling truth in an age of convenient lies," Astra countered, loosing 3 arrows in rapid succession. "I honor his sacrifice by continuing his work." Ben found himself driven back toward the central dais, Orion's relentless assault leaving no opening for counterattack. The hunter moved with supernatural coordination, each strike flowing into the next in combinations honed over thousands of years. "The Olympians knew of your human identity, Tennyson," Orion revealed between attacks. "The wielder of the Omnitrix has been observed with interest for years. But none suspected you carried dragon essence until the device began interacting with your awakening bloodline." Ben narrowly avoided a thrust that would have pierced his crystalline throat. "So you've been spying on me? That's not creepy at all. We monitor all potential threats to cosmic order." Orion executed a spinning attack that forced Ben to give ground. "Your alien heroics were tolerated because they maintained balance. But dragon essence, Zeus would rather see this world burn to ash than allow the dragons to rise again." Something about that statement triggered a connection in Ben's mind. The flame within him surged, and suddenly he felt the crystalline transformation beginning to shift. Golden energy spiraled through his body, melting away the diamond head aspects and replacing them with something new, something that emerged from within rather than being imposed by the Omnitrix. Scales erupted across his skin, golden, luminous, harder than any material on Earth. His senses sharpened exponentially, time seemingly slowing as his perception accelerated. Strength flooded his muscles, and the burning in his chest expanded outward, suffusing every cell with ancient power. Orion faltered momentarily, genuine concern flashing across his features. "The transformation progresses too rapidly," he muttered, then shouted to his companions, "Contain him now." Full containment protocols. The other hunters disengaged from their opponents, converging on Ben with singular purpose. The whip wielder lashed out, his weapon extending impossibly to wrap around Ben's increasingly draconic form. The female archer fired a specialized arrow that exploded into a net of shimmering silver energy. Ben roared, not a human sound, but the resonant challenge of something far older. Golden fire erupted from his mouth, incinerating the energy net before it could entangle him. With a flex of transformed muscles, he shattered the whip's coils, fragments of celestial bronze scattering across the chamber floor. "Julie," Astra called out, "the eastern pillar. Channel through it." Understanding flashed across Julie's face. She sprinted to the azure dragon pillar, placing both hands on its carved surface. Blue energy surged between her and the ancient stone, the flame in the basin roaring upward in response. A wave of azure power swept outward, temporarily disrupting the hunters' divine weapons. Orion, momentarily disarmed, staggered backward. "This changes nothing," he snarled. "Olympus has hunted dragon vessels for thousands of years. We will not fail now." Ben advanced toward him, the transformation continuing to progress. His voice emerged deeper, layered with harmonic overtones that resonated through the chamber. "You've been hunting shadows and fragments. What happens when the hunted remembers how to fight back?" To demonstrate, he extended one transformed hand. Golden flame gathered in his palm, then compressed into a sphere of incandescent energy. Unlike the raw fire he had manifested earlier, this flame held shape and purpose, concentrated creation energy that hummed with potential. Orion's eyes widened with recognition. "The forbidden flame itself," he whispered. "Zeus was right to fear your emergence." Before Ben could respond, a new presence made itself known. The very air in the sanctuary seemed to compress, molecules rearranging to accommodate something entering not through physical space but through reality itself. Moonlight, impose, Cybele, given their location deep within the mountain, spilled across the chamber floor, coalescing into a silvery pathway. Walking this luminous road came a figure of breathtaking beauty and terrible pose. A young woman who appeared somewhere between 16 and 20, with auburn hair gathered in a simple ponytail and silver eyes that reflected the cold light of distant stars. She wore function silver and gray hunting clothes and carried a bow that seemed to shift between modern compound design and ancient recurve, depending on how the light struck it. The Olympian hunters immediately knelt, weapons lowered. "My lady," Orion murmured, head bowed. Astra cursed under her breath. "Artemis," she identified for Ben and Julie's benefit. "Goddess of the hunt." The goddess surveyed the amber with ancient eyes that had witnessed civilizations rise and fall. Her gaze lingered on the damaged pillars, the scattered weapons, and finally settled on Ben's partially transformed state. "So," she said, her voice surprisingly normal yet carrying undertones of wilderness and moonlight, "the golden dragon stirs once more." She approached Ben without apparent fear, studying his draconic features with clinical interest. "And merges with the Omnitrix wielder. A complication my father did not foresee." Ben felt the transformation stabilize, neither progressing further nor receding. He stood nearly 7 feet tall now. His form a harmonious blend of human and dragon. Scaled skin, elongated features, enhanced musculature, and eyes that glowed with inner fire. Yet his mind remained his own. His consciousness undiminished by the change. "Your hunters attacked us without provocation," he stated, surprised by the resonant quality of his transformed voice. Artemis raised one perfect eyebrow. "Preventative measures." Standard protocol for drawer attention shifted to Julie, who still maintained connection with the Eastern Pillar. "The Azure bloodline as well. Interesting convergence." Julie met the goddess's gaze without flinching. "We haven't threatened anyone. Your existence threatens the cosmic order established by my father," Artemis replied matter-of-factly. "Dragon essence. Returning to consciousness contradicts Olympian primacy." "You mean it contradicts the lie Zeus has maintained for thousands of years," Astra interjected, bow still ready though not directly aimed at the goddess. "That the gods were the original givers of fire and consciousness." Artemis turned to Astra with cool appraisal. "Prometheus's daughter. Still fighting your father's lost cause." There was neither mockery nor malice in her tone, simply stating facts as she saw them. Some truths are best left buried when their emergence serves no constructive purpose. "Except it's not just about truth anymore," Ben said. The golden flame still dancing between his transformed fingers. "Something's happening to the barriers between dimensions. The dragon essence is awakening because of it, not causing it." This gave Artemis pause. She studied Ben more intently, then glanced at her hunters. "Leave us," she commanded. Orion looked up in surprise. "My lady, the protocol will wait upon my judgment," she finished firmly. "I would speak with the dragon vessels alone." The hunters hesitated, then bowed deeply and retreated from the chamber, disappearing back through the damaged entrance. When they had gone, Artemis turned to Astra. "You as well, Flame Keeper. This conversation requires privacy." Astra looked to Ben and Julie, clearly reluctant to leave them alone with an Olympian. "It's okay," Ben assured her, intuiting that Artemis could have simply destroyed them all if that had been her intention. "We'll be fine." Astra nodded reluctantly. "I'll secure the outer passage." She fixed Artemis with a warning glare. Even gods can be held accountable for breaking sanctuary protocols. After Astra departed, Artemis circled the chamber slowly, trailing fingertips along the carved pillars. The flames in each basin reacted to her touch, not growing or diminishing, but shifting color momentarily, as if acknowledging her divine status. "What do you know of me, Ben Tennyson?" she asked abruptly. Ben, still maintaining his transformed state, considered the question. "Artemis, goddess of the hunt, the moon, and wilderness. Twin sister of Apollo. One of the 12 major Olympians. Known for protecting maidens and punishing men who threatened them." He paused. "And for taking a vow of eternal chastity." A ghost of a smile touched Artemis's lips. A serviceable summary from mythology texts. But incomplete. She stopped at the Western Dragon Pillar, the one connected to Ben's bloodline. "I was born after the Dragon War, but before the final binding of draconic essence into human bloodlines. I witnessed the last days of the original compact between gods and dragons." Julie had moved to stand beside Ben, blue energy still dancing around her hands. "You saw the truth," she said. "Before Zeus rewrote it." Artemis nodded once. "I am a hunter. I track prey across worlds and through dimensions. Truth leaves tracks that even divine revision cannot completely erase. She fixed them with her silver gaze. I enforce my father's will because order requires structure and authority. But I have never shared his fear of draconic essence. Then why send hunters after us? Ben demanded. Protocol. Artemis replied simply. And to observe your response. The awakening occurs in cycles, but each manifestation is unique to the human vessel. Her gaze intensified. You, Ben Tennyson, represent an unprecedented variation. The Omnitrix accelerates and amplifies your transformation. And your companion, she nodded toward Julie, demonstrates stronger access to Azure Drag on abilities than any vessel in recent cycles. Recent cycles, Julie repeated. You've seen this before. Every 7,000 years, the cosmic alignment weakens the bindings. Dragon vessels begin to manifest abilities. Most are quickly identified and neutralized before full awakening occurs. Something like respect flickered in Artemis's expression. You two have progressed further than most. Ben felt the flame within him pulse with ancient recognition. You didn't answer my statement about the barriers between dimensions. Artemis's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. That observation merits consideration. The Council has noted unusual thinning between realms, but attributed it to natural cosmic fluctuation. It's more than fluctuation, Ben insisted, surprised by the certainty he felt. Knowledge he shouldn't possess surfaced in his mind. The boundaries between mortal world, divine realm, and Tartarus are deteriorating systematically. Something is deliberately weakening the cosmic architecture. The goddess studied him with new intensity. The golden dragon's awareness grows strong in you already, if you perceive such patterns. She turned away, pacing the chamber with predatory grace. This presents complications. What happens if these barriers collapse completely? Julie asked. Chaos, Artemis answered without hesitation. The mortal world cannot withstand direct exposure to divine energies or Tartarian powers. Reality as humans understand it would disintegrate. She stopped pacing, decision crystallizing in her expression. I will investigate these barrier deteriorations personally before reporting to the Olympian Council. Ben exchanged glances with Julie, neither fully trusting this apparent shift in the goddess's position. Why the sudden interest in helping us? Ben asked. I'm not helping you, Artemis corrected coldly. I'm pursuing potential threats to cosmic stability. If the dragon awakening is merely symptomatic of a larger problem rather than its cause. She left the implication hanging. Hunters succeed by distinguishing the true quarry from distractions. With graceful precision, she drew an arrow from her quiver and nocked it in her bow. Before Ben or Julie could react, she fired, not at them, but at the ceiling above. The arrow dissolved into silver light that spread across the stone surface, revealing previously invisible inscriptions. Ancient draconic records, she identified. Prophecies and warnings left by the original dragons before their essence was bound. Her silver eyes reflected the glowing script, including predictions about potential cosmic collapse during future awakening cycles. Ben felt drawn to the inscriptions, his transformed vision somehow able to interpret symbols that should have been incomprehensible. They knew this might happen, he murmured. The dragons foresaw potential weakening of dimensional barriers during future awakenings. Which means the current situation may require dragon essence to resolve, not suppress, Julie concluded, looking pointedly at Artemis. The goddess's expression remained unreadable. Perhaps awakened dragon vessels could exacerbate the collapse. She lowered her bow. I require more information before determining the appropriate course. So what now? Ben asked, feeling the draconic transformation beginning to recede. Golden scales gradually fading back to human skin. You just let us go. For now, Artemis confirmed. I place you under observation, not immediate judgment. A distinction you should appreciate while it lasts. Her silver eyes narrowed. But understand this, if I determine dragon essence threatens cosmic stability, I will complete my hunter's task without hesitation or mercy. The temperature in the chamber dropped several degrees, moonlight intensifying around the goddess as she demonstrated just a fraction of her divine power. I am not your ally, dragon vessels. I am wilderness embodied, beautiful and deadly, nurturing and destructive in equal measure. I follow evidence where it leads, regardless of established doctrine. She began to shimmer with silver radiance. Even my father old respond. Artemis disappeared in a flash of moonlight, leaving behind only the lingering scent of pine forests and night air. Ben completed his transformation back to human form, the Omnitree X recalibrating with a series of soft beeps. Well, that was intense. Did we just get a conditional pass from an Olympian goddess? Julie asked, the blue energy around her hands finally dissipating. I think we got a temporary stay of execution, Ben corrected, rolling his shoulders to dispel the lingering sensation of having worn a different form. She's going to investigate our claims about the barriers. But she didn't exactly promise to become our defender. Julie studied the draconic inscriptions still glowing on the ceiling. At least she's willing to consider alternatives to Zeus' eliminate all dragon essence approach. Astra re-entered the chamber, bow lowered but expression alert. The hunters have withdrawn, though they remain nearby. She looked between Ben and Julie. What did Artemis want? Ben explained their conversation while Julie continued examining the ceiling inscriptions with newfound curiosity. Artemis has always been the most independent of the Olympians, Astra noted when he finished. She follows Zeus's will out of filial duty, not blind obedience. If she's questioning the standard protocol for dragon emergence, something significant has caught her attention. The barrier deterioration, Ben said. She seemed genuinely concerned when I mentioned it. With good reason, Astra confirmed grimly. If the boundaries between realms collapse completely, it won't just be dragons and Olympians at risk. Reality itself could unravel. Julie rejoined them, pointing toward a specific section of the ceiling inscriptions. I can somehow read parts of this. It mentions the convergence and the scales of truth, something about balance being restored when East and West unite. Astra followed her gaze. Yes, ancient draconic prophecy held that, when the golden flame and azure waters reunite, truth would be weighed and judged. The proper cosmic hierarchy could be restored. Golden flame and azure waters, Ben repeated, looking at Julie. That's us, isn't it? Our dragon bloodlines. Astra nodded. Your connection is not coincidental. Dragon essence recognizes its complementary aspects across bloodlines, drawing vessels together across time and space. Your previous relationship was likely influenced by this recognition, even before conscious awakening. Julie frowned. So what? We didn't have real feelings for each other. It was just dragon DNA matchmaking. No, Astra corrected gently. Dragon essence enhances natural affinities, it doesn't create artificial ones. The connection builds upon compatibility that already exists. Ben absorbed this information, remembering how natural it had felt to work alongside Julie again despite their years apart. So what's our next move? We can't just wait around for Artemis to finish her investigation or for her hunters to change their minds. We need allies, Astra decided. Other awakening dragon vessels who can help strengthen our position. And we need more information about what's causing the barrier deterioration. I think I know where to start, Julie said unexpectedly. When the Azure Dragon energy first manifested, I had visions of a location, a temple complex in the mountains of Japan. My grandmother once mentioned our family's ancestral shrine there. The Eastern Sanctuary, Astra breathed. It still exists. If my visions are accurate, yes. Julie looked to Ben. We should go there next. Connect with my dragon lineage the way we've begun to connect with yours. Ben nodded, then tensed as he sensed movement at the chamber entrance. His partially awake, Ned draconic senses detected a presence, human, but with something else layered beneath the surface. He turned toward the disruption, hands instinctively rising in defensive posture. From the shadows emerged a woman approximately their age, with cropped silver-white hair and eyes so dark they appeared almost black. She wore practical tactical gear, reinforced carbon fiber armor over matte black clothing, and carried an assortment of weapons that gleamed with the distinctive sheen of celestial bronze. Don't bother with the defensive posturing, she said in a clipped British accent. If I wanted you dead, I'd have taken the shot from the passage. Astra had her bow drawn and aimed within a heartbeat. Identify yourself. The stranger stepped fully into the chamber's light, revealing a face marked by a distinctive scar that ran from left temple to jaw. Celine Drake, she introduced herself. Last active member of the Order of Scales. Ben's eyes widened with recognition. Drake, as in dragon. Ironically, yes, a humorless smile touched her lips. My ancestors were dragon slayers, humans specially trained to hunt draconic vessels that manifested dangerous or corrupted abilities. Another hunter, Julie said warily. Working with Olympus. Celine's expression hardened. The order predates Olympian authority and has never answered to Zeus. We maintained balance when Dragon V. Essels emerged corrupted or uncontrolled. She studied Ben with clinical precision. But we also preserved the true history that Olympus attempted to erase. Astra lowered her bow slightly, recognition dawning. The Order of Scales. I thought you were extinct. Eliminated during the purges of the 14th century. Nearly, Celine confirmed. My family is the last bloodline. We've operated in deeper secrecy since then, monitoring potential dragon vessel emergence and tracking Olympian hunter activities. She addressed Ben directly. I've been watching you since your partial transformation in Bellwood, Tennyson. Your accelerated awakening is unprecedented. Why reveal yourself now? Ben asked, instinctively sensing this woman represented yet another complication in an already complex situation. Because the barrier deterioration isn't natural, and it isn't caused by dragon re-emergence. Celine reached into a pouch at her belt and withdrew a small device that projected a holographic map of ley lines crisscrossing the globe. Red points pulsed at specific intersections. Someone is systematically weakening the cosmic architecture at these nexus points. The pattern suggests deliberate sabotage. Astra moved closer to examine the projection. These aren't random locations. They're ancient binding sites, places where the original compact between dragons and gods was forged into the fabric of reality. Precisely, Celine confirmed. Someone with knowledge of both draconic and divine power structures is targeting the foundations of the cosmic order itself. But who would want reality to collapse? Julie questioned. It doesn't benefit dragons or Olympians. Celine's expression darkened. There's a third player in this cosmic game, one that both dragons and gods united against in the primordial era. She manipulated the holographic display, zooming in on a location in Greece far from Mount Olympus, a deep chasm surrounded by blasted landscape. Tartarus, the prison realm of the primordials and titans. Ben felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. You think something's trying to escape Tartarus by collapsing the barriers between dimensions. I don't think, Celine corrected grimly. I know. My order detected energy signatures consistent with Tartarian entities at 3 of these sites already. She deactivated the holographic display. The Dragon N's awakening in human bloodlines isn't causing the crisis, it's responding to it. An evolutionary defense mechanism activated by cosmic threat. Astra exhaled slowly, processing this revelation. If Tartarian entities breach containment fully, extinction level event, Celine finished flatly. For humans, gods, and any remaining dragon essence alike. Ben looked at Julie, seeing his own determination reflected in her eyes. Whatever complications their awakening dragon nature presented, whatever conflicts existed between dragons and Olympiartaris represented a threat that transcended those divisions. So we need to convince Artemis and the Olympians that we're not the enemy, he summarized. That dragons and gods need to work together again, like before their war. Good luck with that, Celine replied dryly. Zeus has maintained his revisionist history for millennia. Divine egos don't easily acknowledge error. Then we start smaller, Julie suggested. Artemis is already investigating independently. If we can provide her with concrete evidence of Tartarian involvement, we might gain a divine ally, Astra finished, nodding slowly. It's risky, but potentially effective. Celine studied them with guarded assessment. The Order of Scales traditionally maintains neutrality in cosmic conflicts, serving only to prevent catastrophic outcomes. A hint of resignation entered her voice. But traditional approaches may be insufficient for the current crisis. Are you offering to help us? Ben asked directly. I'm acknowledging aligned interests, Celine clarified. Why order exists to maintain cosmic balance. The current situation threatens that balance fundamentally. She holstered her weapons in a gesture of temporary truce. For now, our goals appear compatible. Ben exchanged glances with Julie and Astra, silently consulting. Both gave subtle nods of provisional acceptance. So we have a direction, Ben said, turning back to Celine. Julie's ancestral shrine in Japan to connect with her dragon lineage. Evidence gathering about Tartarian involvement to convince Artemis. And finding other awakening dragon vessels for strength in numbers. An ambitious agenda, Celine noted with the first genuine hint of respect. But time is not our ally. The barrier deterioration accelerates with each compromised nexus point. As if to emphasize her warning, a tremor ran through the sanctuary, dislodging small fragments of stone from the ceiling. The flames in the 7 basins flickered anxiously. The sanctuary itself feels the weakening, Astra explained, concern evident in her voice. This place exists between dimensions. It experiences barrier deterioration more acutely than locations fully anchored in physical reality. Then we move now, Ben decided. He touched the medallion still hanging around his neck, feeling its resonance with his awakening dragon nature. Can this transport all of us to Japan? Astra nodded. With your dragon essence activating it, yes. The medallion can access the pathways between sanctuaries. Wait, Celine interjected. Before we depart, you should know, you're not the only ones being hunted. Her expression grew graver. Orion leads the divine hunters, but another tracker pursues you with more personal motivation. Someone who has spent centuries perfecting techniques specifically to capture and contain dragon vessels. Ben felt a chill of premonition. Who? Heracles, Celine answered, or as he's known in modern times, Hercules. Zeus assigned him personally to your case after your encounter in Bellwood. Unlike Orion, who follows protocol, Hercules enjoys his work. Her tone left no doubt about the implied threat, and he never fails to bring down his quarry. The name carried weight even in modern times, the legendary hero known for his 12 labors, many involving the defeat of monstrous creatures. If he now hunted dragon vessels with divine mandate. Perfect, Ben muttered. Add god hunters with personal vendettas to our problem list. He squared his shoulders, determination replacing apprehension. All the more reason to keep moving. He extended his hand, palm up, and summoned the golden flame that represented his awakening heritage. Julie placed her hand beside his, azure energy intertwining with his gold. Astra added her flame keeper's fire, and after a moment's hesitation, Celine completed the circle. Her touch adding a silvery light to their combined energies. To Japan, Ben stated, focusing on the medallion. To the eastern sanctuary, the golden dragon medallion flared to life, its symbols rearranging to form a map that only dragon sight could interpret. Reality shimmered around them as the pathways between sanctuaries opened, ancient routes that bypassed conventional space and time. As Mount Olympus faded around them, Ben caught a final glimpse of the sanctuary ceiling with its prophetic inscriptions. One phrase burned itself into his consciousness before disappearing. When golden flame and azure waters unite beneath truth's scales, the ancient balance may be restored, or lost forever. Then they were gone, leaving behind only empty basins, and disturbed dust, and a single silver arrow embedded in the central dais, Artemis's unspoken message that she would be watching their next move very carefully indeed. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Divine Intervention. Japan's Kii Mountains emerged from pre-dawn mist like sentinels from another age. Ancient cedars stretched skyward, their massive trunks disappearing into fog that clung to the slopes with spectral tenacity. The air carried scents of wet stone, pine resin, and something more elusive, a clean electrical quality reminiscent of moments before lightning strikes. Dimensional travel concluded with far less ceremony than it began. One moment the 4 travelers were surrounded by the golden energy of transportation pathways, the next, they stood on a moss-covered stone platform nestled within a mountain forest clearing. No flash of light, no thunderous arrival, merely an impression of reality realigning around them, as though the universe had briefly blinked. Julie recovered first, her connection to this place evident in how she immediately straightened, inhaling deeply as recognition flashed across her features. Kamana Kodo, she whispered, naming the ancient pilgrimage route that wound through these sacred mountains. We're on the path to Nachi Falls. Ben steadied himself against a weathered stone marker, the medallion around his neck cooling rapidly after their journey. His altered biology processed dimensional travel better than a normal human would have, but disorientation lingered like the aftertaste of something bitter. Everyone make it? He asked, scanning their group. Astra appeared perfectly composed, as though interdimensional travel was routine for her. Perhaps it was. Celine, despite her stoic demeanor, looked slightly paler than before, one hand pressed against her temple. Dragon pathways were not designed for purely human travelers, Astra explained, noticing Celine's discomfort. The experience is more taxing without draconic essence to buffer the transition. I'll manage, Celine replied curtly, straightening and surveying their surroundings with professional assessment. The pathway deposited us approximately 3 kilometers from the eastern sanctuary. If my orders records remain accurate. Julie had moved to the edge of the platform, where ancient stone steps descended into mist-shrouded forest. It's strange, she murmured. I've never been here before. Yet I recognize landmarks. That split cedar with the lightning scar, she pointed to a massive tree visible through the fog. My grandmother painted it when I was young. Said it marked the threshold of sacred ground. Ancestral memory, Astra suggested. The azure dragon's knowledge surfacing through generations. The forest around them stirred with morning's first breath. Birds began tentative songs, and golden light filtered through gaps in the mist as the sun crested distant ridges. Yet beneath these natural rhythms ran something else, a subtle vibration in the air. A whispered presence that raised the fine hairs on Ben's neck. We're being watched, he said quietly, the certainty coming from somewhere beyond normal human senses. Celine already had a hand on one of her weapons. Eyes scanning the tree line. Multiple observers, non-human, surrounding our position. Before anyone could respond further, the forest fell abruptly, unnaturally silent. The mist thickened, coiling like living tendrils that defied conventional categorization, neither fully animal nor human, but something that borrowed aspects from both realms. Kitsune with multiple E-tails fanned behind them like peacock displays. Tanuki whose features shifted between raccoon dog and elderly human sage with each step. Crane-like beings standing on impossibly thin legs, their NECs elongating as they studied the newcomers with unblinking eyes. Yokai, Julie identified, her voice hushed with wonder rather than fear. Japanese spirit creatures. The largest of the kitsune, a nine-tailed fox with fur the color of moonlight, stepped forward. When it spoke, its mouth didn't move. Instead, the words formed directly in the minds of the listeners. The azure descendant returns, it communicated. Multifaceted eyes fixed on Julie. After 7 generations of absence. Its attention shifted to Ben, pupils narrowing to vertical slits. Accompanied by western fire. Interesting convergence. Ben felt the dragon essence within him respond to the creature's scrutiny, not aggressively, but with recognition of a different kind of ancient power. We seek the eastern sanctuary, Astra stated formally, stepping forward with a respectful bow, to connect with the azure dragon's legacy. The kitsune's tails swayed in complex patterns, conveying emotions beyond human expression. The sanctuaries grow unstable as boundaries fray. Olympian hunters violated western grounds. Eastern guardians remain vigilant. It approached Julie directly, circling her with predatory grace. Your blood remembers, but your mind does not. Insufficient for sanctuary access. Julie straightened, meeting the creature's gaze without flinching. Then teach me what I need to know. My grandmother SP, oak of our family's connection to this place, to the azure dragon. I'm ready to understand that legacy. The kitsune made a sound like wind chimes in a storm, laughter, perhaps, or approval. Bold statement from one whose power barely stirs. It stopped before her, tails fanning outward. Yet sincerity resonates. The trial may be attempted. Trial? Ben questioned, protective instinct flaring. What kind of trial? The yokai turned its unsettling gaze toward him. Eastern ways differ from western, flame carrier. Water flows, fire consumes. Different paths to awakening. Its attention returned to Julie. The azure descendant must complete the purification journey alone before sanctuary doors reveal themselves. She's not going anywhere alone, Ben insisted, stepping closer to Julie. Not with Olympian hunters potentially tracking us. Ben, Julie placed a restraining hand on his arm. I think this is something I need to do. Her fingers glowed faintly blue where they touched his skin. My dragon aspect is different from yours. It awakens differently. The kitsune's tails rippled with approval. Wisdom surfaces already. Celine had remained watchful throughout the exchange, assessing the yokai with professional detachment. Now she spoke. These spirit creatures offer no immediate threat. Japanese mythological entities operate under different protocols than Greek counterparts. They value balance over dominance. The hunter with dragon name speaks truth, the kitsune acknowledged. We serve neither Olympus nor draconic resurrection. We maintain ancient accords that precede both. Astra looked troubled. The barrier deterioration affects all realms. Time grows short for ceremonial journeys. The Tanuki spirit shuffled forward, its form settling into that of an elderly man with raccoon features. When it spoke, its voice emerged as rustling leaves and creaking wood. Short-sighted flame daughter, Eastern awakening cannot be rushed. Azure power flows from harmony, not urgency. Julie squared her shoulders, decision crystallizing in her expression. I'll complete the trial. But first, she turned to Ben, determination tempered with concern. What will you do while I'm gone? Ben felt multiple responses competing for priority, protectiveness warring with respect for her agency, tactical considerations clashing with emotional impulses. Before he could organize these conflicting reactions, the crane spirit extended its impossibly long neck, bringing its face level with his. The western flame burns erratically, it observed in a voice like distant temple bells. Accelerated awakening creates imbalance, requires stabilization before full manifestation. Stabilization how? Ben asked, the dragon essence within him responding to the spirit's assessment with uncomfortable recognition. The crane retracted its neck, turning to address the kitsune. An unspoken communication passed between them, conveyed through subtle movements and energetic exchanges incomprehensible to human observers. Finally, the kitsune's tail stilled. A compromise. The azure journey must be undertaken alone, but companions may receive guidance at Moonfall Spring while they wait. Stabilization techniques for Western Flame. Information exchange with Dragon Hunter and Flame Keeper. Ben glanced at Julie, seeing her quiet determination. Whatever ceremonial journey these E-spirits required clearly resonated with her awakening dragon nature. He nodded slowly. How long will this purification journey take? Time flows differently on sacred paths, the Tanuki answered cryptically. When properly aligned, what seems days may pass as hours. Not helpful, Ben muttered. Julie touched his arm again, her expression softening. I'll be careful, and these beings, she gestured to the assembled yokai. They're connected to my heritage. I need to understand that part of myself, just as you're discovering yours. The logic was sound, but logic alone didn't quiet Ben's protective instincts amplified by his awakening draconic nature. Still, he recognized the importance of respecting Julie's journey. They were both navigating transformation, each following different paths toward understanding. Okay, he agreed reluctantly. But if you're not back by sunset, all deals are off. I'm coming to find you, spirit trials or not. Julie's smile carried warmth that belied the cool blue energy surrounding her hands. I wouldn't expect anything less. The kitsune's tails resumed their complex dance. Decision made. Azure Descendant follows water path. Oath. Accompany guardians to Moonfall Spring. Its gaze fixed on Ben with penetrating intensity. Western Flame will find answers of different kind there. Unexpected guidance awaits. With that cryptic statement, the yokai began to withdraw into the mist. The Tanuki gestured for Ben, Astra, and Celine to follow, while the kitsune remained with Julie. As they prepared to separate, Julie impulsively stepped forward and embraced Ben. Be careful with your flame, she whispered against his ear. And try not to argue with any more divine beings while I'm gone. Ben returned the embrace, surprised by how natural it felt despite their years apart. No promises on the divine being's front. He pulled back, studying her face. Just come back, okay. Count on it. With a final reassuring smile, Julie turned and followed the kitsune into the mist, her form gradually fading until both disappeared entirely. The Azure Descendant walks her path now, the crane spirit intoned. You must walk yours, Flame Carrier. Ben watched the space where Julie had vanished for a moment longer, then turned to his remaining companions. To Moonfall Spring, then. As they followed the Tanuki deeper into the forest, the mist parted before them like a living curtain. Ancient cedars gave way to bamboo groves whose hollow stems created natural music as wind passed through them. The path descended, following a stream that gradually widened and quickened. The eastern sanctuary truly maintained independence from Olympian influence. Astra asked the Tanuki as they walked. The spirit's form fluctuated between human and animal aspects as it replied. Eastern and Western cosmologies developed separately. When dragons retreated and Zeus claimed primacy, Eastern entities negotiated different terms as crinkled in what might have been amusement. Olympians prefer not to acknowledge limits of their authority, but Pacific boundaries remained respected through mutual necessity. Convenient, Celine commented dryly. Japan's geographical isolation protected its mythological autonomy. Geography reflects spiritual reality, the Tanuki corrected. Not its cause. The path suddenly opened onto a clearing, dominated by a crystal-clear pool fed by a waterfall that seemed to materialize directly from mist rather than from higher terrain. The water captured morning sunlight and transformed it into prismatic patterns that danced across surrounding stone and vegetation. Moonfall Spring, the crane spirit announced, extending its wings. Sacred meeting ground where realms intersect during transition hours. Ben approached the pool cautiously, drawn by something beyond ordinary attraction. The water's surface remained perfectly still despite the waterfall's constant flow, an impossibility that nailed this place operated under different natural laws. Why bring us here? He asked, sensing purpose beyond simple waiting. The Tanuki settled into its more human form, seating itself on a moss-covered boulder. Western flame requires guidance Western sanctuary cannot provide. Questions need answers. Balance needs restoration. You're being deliberately cryptic, Ben accused, frustration edging his tone. And you're being characteristically impatient, replied a new voice, female, confident, and unmistakably familiar. Ben whirled toward the sound. Standing at the edge of the clearing was Artemis. Though not as she had appeared in the Western sanctuary. Her divine radiance was muted, her hunting attire replaced by simple hiking clothes that would not look out of place on any mountain trail. Only her silver eyes remained unchanged, reflecting moonlight despite the morning sun. Artemis, Astra identified, tension evident in her posture. Following us so quickly, even Olympians typically require more time to track interdimensional travel. The goddess approached with predatory grace, stopping at a respectful distance from the spring itself. I didn't follow you. I arrived separately, by invitation. The crane spirit bowed its long neck toward Artemis. The moon hunter honors ancient accord by coming alone, without divine retinue. Ben looked between the spirits and the goddess, realization dawning. You knew she would be here. This was arranged. Convergence, not arrangement, the Tanuki corrected. Patterns align when cosmic necessity demands. Artemis surveyed the group with clinical assessment. After our encounter at the Western Sanctuary, I began investigating barrier deterioration independently. Evidence led here, to one of the nexus points where dimensional thinning accelerated recently. And the yokai just allowed an Olympian to enter their territory. Celine questioned skeptically, her hand never straying far from her weapons. I have historical connections to Eastern entities. Artemis replied with uncharacteristic hesitation. Agreements that predate current Olympian policies. The crane spirit extended its wings. Moon hunter walks between worlds by nature. Neither fully Olympian nor fully independent. Suitable mediator for current crisis. Ben studied Artemis with new consideration. The goddess's presence here suggested more complex motivations than simple enforcement of Zeus's will. You're really investigating the barrier deterioration. Against Zeus's orders, Artemis's expression hardened. I serve cosmic balance first, Olympian hierarchy second. My father's perspective is limited by historical biases. Her silver gaze fixed on Ben. Your claim that dragon essence responds to barrier deterioration rather than sing it merits investigation before judgment. How generous, Astra commented sarcastically. Pragmatic, Artemis corrected. If Tartarian forces exploit dimensional weakening, cosmic consequences transcend old conflicts between dragons and gods. The Tanuki nodded sagely. Truth emerges through necessity. First step toward restoration. Ben approached Artemis directly, instinct overriding caution. So now you want to help us understand our awakening dragon nature. After sending hunters to eliminate us, I want to understand the complete situation before determining appropriate action, she clarified coldly. If that requires temporarily assisting your stabilization process, so be it. Temporarily, Ben repeated skeptically. Until evidence clarifies the true threat. A hint of omething-like respect entered Artemis's expression. Your accelerated transformation progresses dangerously fast. Without proper guidance, Western dragon essence could manifest destructively, harming both vessel and surroundings. The dragon nature within Ben responded to her assessment with uncomfortable recognition. His partial transformations had grown increasingly powerful but remained erratic and difficult to control. The goddess speaks truth, the crane spirit confirmed. Western flame burns toward explosion without proper channeling techniques. Artemis approached the spring, kneeling at its edge. This water exists simultaneously in physical and divine realms. It reveals truth to those willing to look beyond preconceptions. She gestured for Ben to join her, including the truth of what awakens within you. Ben hesitated, looking to Astra and Selene. The Flame Keeper appeared deeply suspicious, while Selene maintained calculating neutrality. "I'll maintain watch," Selene stated practically. "Astra can monitor the goddess's actions for any deception." "How considerate," Artemis remarked dryly. The Tanuki shuffled to a different boulder, its form becoming more raccoon-like. "We will provide Flame Keeper and Dragon Hunter with information about Eastern Barrier deterioration while Moon Hunter guides Western Flame." Efficient use of waiting time. Decision made. Ben A.P.P. roached the spring and knelt opposite Artemis. The water between them reflected their faces with unnatural clarity, but something else moved beneath the surface, shifting patterns that resonated with the dragon essence within him. "What exactly are we doing here?" he asked, unable to look away from those submerged patterns. "Bringing conscious awareness to unconscious transformation," Artemis answered. "Your dragon nature awakens chaotically because you lack understanding of what emerges." She placed her fingertips on the water's surface, creating ripples that should have disturbed the reflection but somehow enhanced it instead. "Look beyond physical appearance. See the essence beneath." Ben reluctantly mimicked her gesture, touching the water's surface. Instantly, connection formed, not just with the spring, but with something deeper, as though the water provided direct interface with aspects of himself previously hidden from conscious awareness. His reflection shifted, scales emerging across its features, golden fire burning in its eyes and coiling beneath its skin. But unlike his previous partial transformations, this image showed perfect integration, human and dragon in harm. Onious fusion rather than conflicted overlay. "This is what I'm becoming," he whispered, recognition and apprehension mingling. "What you already are," Artemis corrected. "The transformation doesn't add something foreign to your nature. It awakens what was always present but dormant." The reflection shifted again, showing not just Ben's current state but a temporal progression, past, present, and potential futures flowing like water currents beneath the surface. "The golden dragon chose your bloodline specifically," Artemis continued, her voice taking on an instructional quality devoid of her usual coldness. "Not randomly, not accidentally. The essence recognized compatibility with your fundamental nature." "Why?" Ben questioned, unable to look away from the transforming reflection. "Why my family? Why me specifically?" Dragon essence seeks vessels with particular qualities. Adaptability, protective instinct, capacity for wheelie. Artemis's silver eyes studied him with unsettling directness. "Your experience with the Omnitrix demonstrated these qualities, making you an ideal vessel when awakening time arrived." The water rippled again, showing Ben's countless alien transforma. Tions over years of wielding the Omnitrix, each experience preparing him, on some fundamental level, for the dragon transformation now unfolding. "The medallion," Ben remembered suddenly. "When I first touched it, the Omnitrix started interacting with the dragon essence. The medallion is a key, not just for pathways between sanctuaries, but for unlocking dormant dragon consciousness," Artemis confirmed. "It accelerated a process that would otherwise have progressed more gradually." Ben studied his rippling reflection, watching scales and human skin alternate in flowing patterns. "So how do I control this? My partial transformations happen unpredictably." "Because you're fighting instinct with intellect," Artemis explained. "Trying to control through conscious effort what should emerge through integrated awareness." She moved her hand through the water in a circular pattern. Dragon essence responds to intention aligned with emotion, not to analytical command. As if demonstrating, Artemis cupped her hands beneath the water's surface, then lifted them. The water they contained continued to reflect Ben's draconic aspects, but now separated from the spring itself, a perfect sphere that floated between her palms. "Divine manipulation," Ben observed. "Technique, not divinity," she corrected. "Similar principles apply to your flame manifestation. Intent shapes energy, emotion provides power, consciousness directs purpose." Ben watched as she released the water sphere, which maintained cohesion rather than splashing downward, eventually rejoining the spring with deliberate slowness. Try, she instructed, not with water, but with your inner flame. Visualize it responding to intention rather than erupting from instinct. Ben closed his eyes, focusing inward on the BURNING sensation that had become his constant companion since the dragon awakening began. Rather than suppressing it as he had been doing, he acknowledged its presence fully, allowed himself to feel its quality, its potential, its connection to something ancient and purposeful. Heat gathered in his chest, but instead of the usual uncomfortable burning, it settled into rhythmic pulsation synchronized with his heartbeat. When he extended his hand over the spring and opened his eyes, golden flame gathered in his palm, not explosive or chaotic, but contained and responsive. Good, Artemis acknowledged. Now shape it. Give it purpose beyond mere manifestation. Ben concentrated, visualizing the flame condensing, taking form. To his surprise, the golden fire responded, coalescing into a small draconic figure that moved like a living creature, circling above his palm. It's responding to my thoughts, he realized. To your integrated intent, Artemis corrected. Mind, emotion, and dragon consciousness acting in concert rather than in conflict. The miniature flame dragon flapped tiny wings, then dissolved back into formless fire before extinguishing completely. The exercise left Ben feeling energized rather than drained, as though proper channeling conserved power that haphazard manifestation had been wasting. The Omnitrix transformations should stabilize as well, Artemis continued. If you approach them as integration rather than imposition, your device adapts to your evolving nature. Working with that adaptation rather than resisting it will produce more consistent results. Ben activated the Omnitrix, studying its reconfigured interface. The alien silhouettes remained, but now incorporated subtle draconic elements. So instead of forcing a complete transformation, allow the integration to find its natural balance, Artemis finished. Each alien form has different compatibility with dragon essence. Some will merge more completely, others will maintain more separation. Theoretical understanding was one thing. Practical application would require experimentation. Still, Ben felt a clarity that had been missing since his awakening began. The dragon essence wasn't an invader to be controlled or suppressed, but an emerging aspect of himself to be integrated and directed. Why are you helping me? He asked abruptly, studying the goddess across the spring. Really? Beyond investigating barrier deterioration, Artemis's expression remained unreadable, but something shifted in her silver eyes, a complexity beyond divine detachment. Because cosmic balance requires truth, however inconvenient to established hierarchies. She glanced toward the Tanuki and Crane spirits, who had drawn Astra and Selene into conversation some distance away. And because I witnessed the original compact between dragons and emergent divine entities, I remember what Zeus would prefer forgotten. You weren't born after the Dragon War, Ben realized. You were there. Quote, my divine manifestation occurred during the transition period, she acknowledged reluctantly. When boundaries between dragons and gods remained negotiable, something ancient and rarely accessed surfaced in her expression. I walked between worlds even then. Olympian, yes, but connected to older forces through my domain over wilderness and moon, elements that existed before divine categorization. The water between them rippled without being touched, responding to revelations that carried cosmic weight. Zeus rewrote more than human myths, Ben ventured, intuiting connections. He revised divine histories as well, even for the gods themselves. Artemis didn't confirm this directly, but her silence carried affirmation. Cosmic power structures require coherent narratives, she finally said. Alternative perspectives threaten established authority, even when those alternatives might be necessary for addressing new threats, Ben concluded. Precisely. Artemis stood in a fluid ocean that reminded Ben she was a hunter at her core, every movement economical and purpose-driven. Which is why I investigate independently while maintaining official adherence to Olympian protocols. Ben rose as well, processing these revelations. So you sent hunters after us as cover while you pursued your own investigation. The hunters followed standard procedure with genuine intent, she corrected. I merely ensured I would be notified of their findings rather than allowing direct report to Zeus. She fixed him with her silver gaze. Do not mistake pragmatic information gathering for alliance, dragon vessel. If evidence ultimately confirms Olympian concerns about draconic re-emergence, I will complete my hunter's task without hesitation. Noted, Ben replied dryly. But if EV'd, NCE suggests cooperation between dragons and gods is necessary to address Tartarian threats. Then adjustments to current protocols would be tactically indicated. The careful phrasing revealed the political tightrope Artemis walked between cosmic pragmatism and Olympian loyalty. Their conversation was interrupted by movement at the clearing's edge, not from the direction Astra and Selene conferred with the spirits, but from the forest path they had not taken. A figure emerged from between ancient cedars, moving with the careful precision of someone mapping unfamiliar territory. A woman approximately Ben's age, with coffee-brown skin and tightly coiled black hair gathered in a practical ponytail. She wore expedition clothing, reinforced pants with multiple pockets, hiking boots showing considerable wear, and a photographer's vest over a moisture-wicking shirt. A professional camera hung around her neck, and a tablet computer was strapped to her forearm. She froze upon seeing the occupied clearing, eyes widening as she took in the assembled group, particularly the yokai spirits, whose supernatural nature was unmistakable even to ordinary human perception. "Oh," she said, eloquence momentarily abandoned. "You're real." The Tanuki's form shimmered between human and animizable to the newcomer, who raised her camera with automatic professional reflex before lowering it again. Choosing observation over documentation. Barrier thinning allows increased mortal perception, the crane spirit noted with concern. Unintended witness arrives. Artemis moved with divine speed, pairing beside the woman before she could retreat. Human intrusion on sacred ground carries consequences, she warned, silver eyes gleaming with supernatural light. To everyone's surprise, the woman didn't flinch or cower. Instead, she met Artemis's gaze with remarkable composure, though her rapid pulse was visible at her throat. "I followed proper purification protocols before ascending the sacred mountain," she stated in accented but fluent Japanese, then switched to English. "And I'm guessing you're not human either, despite appearances." She glanced toward Ben, Astra, and Selene. "Any of you?" Ben approached carefully, recognizing the woman was processing extraordinary revelations with admirable rationality. "Some of us are human," he offered. "Just complicated versions of human." The woman studied him with academic intensity. "You're Ben Tennyson," she identified, surprising him. "The Omnitrix wielder. I've been tracking unusual energy signatures associated with your recent appearances." Her attention shifted to Artemis. "But you register differently on my instruments. Older, more fundamental." Artemis's expression darkened. "Your instruments." Rather than answering directly, the woman extended her hand in formal introduction. "Dr. Naomi Rivers, cryptozoological xenobiologist. I specialize in documenting entities that exist at the intersection of mythology and material reality." Her steady gaze moved between them. "And apparently, I've hit the academic jackpot." The Tanuki made a sound between laughter and exasperation. Curious mortals sees through thinning veils. Inevitable consequence of weakening boundaries. Selene and Astra had approached, alerted by the unexpected arrival. Selene's hand rested on a weapon, while Astra studied the newcomer with cautious assessment. "How did you find this place?" Astra demanded. "The approaches are warded against casual discovery." Dr. Rivers held up her tablet, which displayed complex energy readings overlaid on geographical mapping. "I've developed algorithms to detect pattern anomalies consistent with what folklore describes as thin places between worlds. When the recent atmospheric disturbances began, my equipment registered unprecedented spikes." She gestured to the spring. "This location showed particularly strong readings." "She perceives naturally what most humans require training to see," the crane spirit observed. "Rare ability. Useful perspective for current crisis." Ben studied Drive. Rivers with new interest. "You said you've been tracking energy signatures connected to me." "Why?" "Professional curiosity initially," she admitted. "The statistical correlation between your appearances and unexplained phenomena has been documented in fringe research circles for years." Her expression grew more serious. "But recently, the pattern changed. New energy signatures began appearing alongside your usual readings, signatures that match ancient descriptions of what various cultures called dragon fire." The academic precision of her terminology suggested scholarly research rather than conspiracy theorizing. This woman had approached the extraordinary with scientific methodology rather than sensationalism. And you just decided to investigate alone? Celine questioned skeptically. Dr. Rivers' expression reflected professional indignation. My field requires discretion. Ma. In-stream academic institutions don't typically fund research into what they consider mythological fabrication. She gestured to her equipment. I document, analyze, and preserve information about entities that exist beyond conventional classification. Without exploitation or exposure. Artemis had been studying the woman with unnerving intensity. Now she spoke with reluctant acknowledgement. She carries no deception. Her pursuit is knowledge, not power or intervention. Thank you, Dr. Rivers replied, uncertainty entering her voice for the first time. And you would be someone whose name you should not attempt to identify or record, Artemis answered coldly. Ben made a decision, instinct guiding him more than calculation. Dr. Rivers, you've stumbled into something bigger and more dangerous than academic research. These atmospheric disturbances you're tracking are symptoms of cosmic architecture breaking down. Dimensional barriers thinning. She nodded, surprising him again. Yes, my readings suggest something like that. Reality becoming more permeable between what we might call consensus reality and other planes of existence. Her gaze moved between them. I'm guessing you're all involved in addressing this situation somehow. Perceptive mortal, the Tanuki commented. Astra stepped forward. Ben, we can't simply recruit random humans into this conflict. The dangers. She's already involved. Ben countered. She's been tracking the same phenomena we're investigating, just from a different angle. He turned back to Dr. Rivers. What exactly have you documented so far? The scientist hesitated only briefly before professional enthusiasm overcame caution. She manipulated her tablet, bringing up a global map marked with data points. Unprecedented inning between dimensional planes at these locations. Each corresponds to sites with significant mythological importance across multiple cultural traditions. Ben, Artemis, and Celine moved closer to examine the display. The pattern matched exactly what Celine had shown them earlier, nexus points where ancient bindings between realms were weakening. Your independent verification confirms our findings, Celine acknowledged reluctantly. These are precisely the locations we've identified as compromised. Dr. Rivers studied Celine with professional interest. Your equipment appears military grade but customized for unusual detection parameters. Private organization. Something like that, Celine replied evasively. The crane spirit extended its neck, bringing its face level with Dr. Rivers. The scientist maintained remarkable composure despite the unnaturally close examination. Knowledge seeker's presence is not accidental, it finally pronounced. Pattern recognition abilities valuable for current crisis. Mortal perspective offers insights divine and draconic viewpoints overlook. Artemis frowned. Eastern spirits have no authority to include humans in cosmic matters. Nor do Olympians have authority to exclude them when boundaries affect all realms, the Tanuki countered, shuffling forward. Knowledge seeker already perceives truth. Better to guide understanding than force forgetting. Dr. Rivers looked between them, comprehension dawning. You're talking about whether to let me remember this encounter or not. She addressed Artemis directly. You have the ability to alter my memory. Among other options, Artemis confirmed coolly. The scientist squared her shoulders. Before you decide, consider this. I've been documenting these dimensional anomalies for months. Correlating data across disciplines most researchers never connect. My perspective might provide insights your established viewpoints might miss. Ben recognized the logic in her argument. One approaching these phenomena from purely scientific methodology might indeed notice patterns that beings entrenched in mythological conflicts would overlook. She stays, he decided, earning a sharp look from Artemis. At least until we determine whether her research contributes meaningful information. You lack authority to make such decisions, Dragon Vessel, Artemis stated coldly. Actually, the Tanuki interjected. Within Eastern jurisdiction, Western authorities, including Olympian, require local consensus for memory alteration protocols. Traditional boundaries and courtesies. Artemis's expression suggested this reminder of limitcom, but she didn't dispute the point. Fine. The human remains, temporarily. But she operates under supervision and accepts consequences of her involvement. Dr. Rivers nodded solemnly. Understood. Though I prefer, drive. Rivers, to the human, if we're going to be working together. A hint of something almost like amusement flickered across Artemis's features before disappearing. Your preferences are noted, drive. Rivers. Further discussion was interrupted by a subtle change in the clearing's atmosphere, a shift in pressure and light quality that drew everyone's attention to the spring. The waterfall feeding it had changed direction, now flowing upward rather than downward, defying gravity with casual disregard for physical laws. Moonfall reverses. The crane spirit announced. Azure journey approaches completion. Ben felt his dragon senses extend, detecting Julie's approach before any visual confirmation appeared. Her energy signature had changed, stronger, more coherent, resonating with newfound harmony between human and draconic aspects. From the forest path emerged not the Kitsune guide, but Julie alone. Her physical appearance remained largely unchanged, yet something fundamental had shifted in her bearing, her movements, her essential presence. Blue energy no longer manifested as erratic flares around her hands, but as a subtle luminescence that seemed to flow beneath her skin like living water. Her eyes, when they met Ben's across the clearing, contained new depth, knowledge recently acquired yet seemingly ancient in origin. Julie, he called, moving toward her. Are you okay? She smiled, the expression carrying both familiar warmth and unfamiliar wisdom. Better than okay. Her voice carried new harmonics, subtle undertones that hadn't been present before. I understand now. Not everything, but enough to continue the journey properly. The Kitsune materialized beside her, its 9 tails arranged in a precise configuration that communicated satisfaction to those who could interpret such signals. Azure Descendant completed primary awakening sequence, it confirmed. Eastern Sanctuary recognizes legitimate vessel. Julie approached the spring, kneeling at its edge with ceremonial precision that suggested recently acquired knowledge. She placed her palm on the water's surface, and the liquid responded, rising to meet her touch, flowing around her fingers in patterns too complex to be random. The Azure Dragon represents wisdom through transformation, she explained, looking up at Ben. Not fire's direct creation, but water's adaptive power, finding path through resistance, wearing away obstacles through persistence rather than force. Ben knelt beside her, instinctively understanding the significance of what she had experienced. Your awakening follows different patterns than mine. Complementary patterns, she corrected gently. Eastern and Western draconic lineages were never meant to awaken in isolation. They balance each other, like your fire and my water. To demonstrate, she lifted her hand from the spring, drawing a stream of water that followed her movement like a living extension of her will. When Ben extended his hand, golden flame gathered in his palm with new stability and control. As they brought their elements together, neither extinguished the other, instead. They spiraled around each other in double helix formation, creating something greater than either alone. Perfect harmony, Astra breathed, watching the elemental dance. The first step toward restoration. Artemis observed this demonstration with complex emotions crossing her usually stoic features. Recognition, concern, and something else, something almost like longing quickly suppressed. The Eastern Sanctuary, Julie continued, allowing the water to return to the spring. I can lead us there now. The trials granted me the knowledge to open its gates. Dr. Rivers had been documenting this interaction with careful notes on her tablet, maintaining respectful distance. Now she spoke. Excuse me, but should we be concerned about that? She pointed skyward, where the previously clear morning had transformed. Storm clouds gathered with unnatural speed, circling the mountain peak in counter-rotation to normal weather patterns. Lightning flickered within the darkening mass, not golden-hued anomalies Ben had observed previously, but brilliant electric blue that carried unmistakable divine signature. Zeus, Artemis identified, tension evident in her posture. He's detected our gathering. The Tanuki and crane spirits exchanged alarmed glances, while the Kitsune's tails bristled with agitation. Olympian king violates Eastern autonomous jurisdiction, the crane spirit protested. Ancient accords forbid direct intervention. My father recognizes few limitations when sufficiently motivated, Artemis replied grimly. The simultaneous presence of both awakening dragon vessels, plus my own unauthorized investigation, would constitute exceptional circumstances in his judgment. The storm intensified, lightning striking progressively closer to their position. Wind whipped through the clearing with unnatural force, carrying the distinct scent of ozone and divine power. We need to reach the eastern sanctuary, Astra urged. Its protections would shield us from direct Olympian intervention. Julie nodded, already moving toward a previously unremarkable rock face at the clearing's edge. This way, I can open the passage now. Wait, Artemis commanded, her divine authority momentarily asserting itself. Zeus hasn't directly manifested yet, only his atmospheric harbinger. This may be Heracles leading an advance force rather than my father himself. Heracles, Dr. Rivers questioned, hurriedly securing her equipment against the strengthening wind. As in the mythological hero. The very same, Selene confirmed grimly. Currently serving as Zeus's primary enforcer for dragon-related matters. As if summoned by mention of his name, a thunderous impact shook the mountain slope above them. Trees splintered and rocks shattered as someone, descended with meteoric force. The clearing's boundary erupted in debris as a figure strode through the destruction he had created. Heracles bore little resemblance to popular modern depictions. No flowing beard or classical toga draped his form. Instead, he appeared as a man in his prime, perhaps mid-30s by human standards, with close-cropped dark hair and a neatly trimmed beard. His physique, strained against modern tactical gear modified to accommodate inhuman musculature. Only his eyes betrayed his age and nature, ancient, power-laden, carrying the weight of millennia. Lady Artemis, H.E. greeted with formal respect that barely masked underlying tension. Your father requests your immediate return to Olympus. Alone. Artemis straightened, divine radiance intensifying around her. I operate under my own authority in wilderness domains, Heracles. My movements require no paternal approval. The demigod's expression hardened. These are exceptional circumstances, my lady. The Drago, N vessels, his gaze locked onto Ben and Julie with predatory focus, have progressed beyond containment protocols. Zeus has authorized direct intervention. Behind Heracles emerged a dozen figures. In modernized Greek armor, elite hunters equipped with weapons designed specifically for capturing beings with draconic essence. They spread out with practiced coordination, establishing containment formation around the clearing. The yokai spirits gathered protectively near the spring, their forms shifting toward more combative aspects, the tanuki growing larger, more bestial, the crane's wings transforming into bladed appendages. The kitsune's 9 tails becoming wreathed in foxfire. Eastern jurisdiction recognizes no Olympian intervention authority, the kitsune stated, mental voice resonating with ancient power. Depart or face consequences beyond your mandate, Godling. Heracles smiled, a confident expression backed by thousands of years of successful hunts. Easter by Olympian tolerance, Spirit Fox. A courtesy Zeus has temporarily suspended. The hunters activated their weapons, spears that crackled with divine energy, nets woven from materials that could bind supernatural entities, and specialized restraints designed to separate draconic essence from human vessels. Ben stepped forward, the dragon within responding to direct threat with protective instinct. Golden energy gathered around him, not chaotic as before, but focused through the techniques Artemis had just taught him. We haven't threatened anyone, he stated firmly. The dragon essence is responding to cosmic disruption, not causing it. Irrelevant, Heracles replied dismissively. Zeus has ordered your containment. Compliance will minimize unpleasantness. Julie moved to stand beside Ben, azure energy flowing around her with newfound control. We're not going anywhere with you. Artemis positioned herself between the confronting groups, her divine authority creating momentary pause in the developing conflict. Heracles, listen carefully. The dimensional barriers deteriorate from causes unrelated to draconic re-emergence. Evidence suggests Tartarian involvement. These vessels may provide insight necessary for addressing the true threat. Uncertainty flickered briefly across the demigod's features before resolution hardened his expression. Your concerns have been noted, Lady Artemis. Zeus W. I'll evaluate them after the dragon vessels are secured. His attention shifted to his hunters. Take them. The goddess is not to be harmed under any circumstances. The hunters advanced with synchronized precision. Selene drew her weapons, twin short swords that gleamed with specialized alloys designed to counter divine forged metals. Astra nocked an arrow wreathed in golden flame. Dr. Rivers Prud Entley sought cover behind a large boulder, though her tablet remained active, documenting the confrontation. Ben activated the Omnitrix, cycling through the reconfigured interface. Julie, get to the sanctuary entrance. Start opening it. We'll buy time. She nodded, backing toward the rock face where the hidden passage awaited. The Kitsune moved with her, providing additional protection. Ben selected Homungosaur, whose raw strength might counter Heracles' legendary power. When he slammed down the dial, the transformation occurred differently than before, smoother, more integrated. His form grew to 12 feet tall, incorporating the alien's dinosaur-like aspects but maintaining draconic elements throughout. Golden scales reinforced Homungosaur's already formidable hide, and flame-like energy radiated from his eyes. This is new, he rumbled, feeling the harmonic integration of alien DNA and dragon essence working in concert rather than conflict. Heracles assessed this transformation with professional interest. The Omnitrix adapts to draconic integration. Fascinating but futile. He cracked his knuckles, divine energy surrounding his fists. I've subdued dragons when they stood 30 feet tall, Vessel. Your hybrid form presents no challenge. The hunters attacked from multiple angles simultaneously, their weapons designed to entangle and neutralize rather than kill. B.N. met their assault with Homungosaur's strength enhanced by draconic power, scattering the first wave with a sweeping arm movement that sent hunters flying. Across the clearing, Astra and Selene engaged another group of hunters. Their complementary fighting styles, Astra's ranged flame arrows and Selene's close-quarters blade work, creating effective defense despite being outnumbered. The Yokai-s pirates confronted hunters who attempted to circle behind, their supernatural abilities confounding standard Olympian combat protocols. The Tanuki transformed the ground beneath hunters' feet into quicksand-like substance, while the crane created disorienting illusions that made targets appear in multiple locations simultaneously. Heracles ignored these peripheral conflicts, focusing entirely on Ben. The demigod moved with speed belying his muscular bulk, crossing the distance between them in a blur of motion. His first strike caught Ben in the chest despite Homungosaur's attempt to block, impact sending him crashing through several trees before halting against a massive boulder. Thousands of years hunting dragons teaches efficient techniques, Heracles commented, advancing methodically. Your transformed state actually makes you more vulnerable to my specialized approaches. Ben pushed himself upright, golden energy repairing damage even as it occurred. Good thing I don't just have one transformation, then. He slammed the Omnitrix symbol on his chest, shifting forms. This time he selected XLR8, hoping speed might counter Heracles' strength advantage. The transformation again incorporated draconic elements. XLR-8's velocity-adapted body enhanced with golden scales that improved aerodynamics, the alien's helmet now featuring draconic styling that expanded visual perception. Moving at speeds approaching sonic velocity, Ben circled Heracles, creating a vacuum effect that disrupted the demigod's footing. He darted in with precision strikes, each impact reinforced with concentrated dragon energy. Heracles adapted quickly, however. The demigod slammed his fist into the ground, creating a shockwave that disrupted Ben's speed pattern and momentarily unbalanced him, just long enough for Heracles to grab his arm in an unbreakable grip. Predictable, the demigod stated flatly. Speed against strength, oldest tactical pattern in combat. He hurled Ben across the sea, leering with casual strength that would have killed an ordinary human instantly. Even with XLR-8's enhanced durability and draconic reinforcement, the impact against stone was devastating. At the sanctuary entrance, Julie had placed her hands against the rock face, blue energy flowing from her fingers into ancient symbols that gradually became visible beneath her touch. The Kitsune maintained protective position beside her, its tails creating barrier-like formations against approaching hunters. Hurry! Ben called to her, shifting forms again as Heracles approached relentlessly. This time he selected Diamondhead, whose crystalline structure had proven effective during their previous battle in the Western Sanctuary. The transformation integrated dragon essence differently, golden energy flowing through crystal lattices, reinforcing structural integrity while adding plasma-like properties to the mineral formation. Heracles paused, reassessing this new form. Interesting. Material resembles adamantine crystal, one of the few substances that could withstand my strength, temporarily. Ben formed his arms into crystalline blades enhanced with golden dragon fire. Let's test the theory. Their collision created concussive force that rippled outward, shattering nearby stones and causing the spring's water to leap upward in defiance of gravity. Ben's integrated diamond-head dragon foe matched Heracles' strength more effectively than previous transformations, the crystalline structure absorbing and redistributing impact while dragon energy provided offensive capabilities the alien form alone lacked. Across the clearing, Artemis had remained outwardly neutral, her divine authority preventing direct involvement in the conflict per Olympian protocol regarding internecine disputes. Yet Ben noticed her subtle movements that coincidentally disrupted hunter coordination at critical moments, a step here that blocked a clear shot, a gesture there that created momentary distraction. The goddess was maintaining technical compliance with Zeus's orders while practically undermining their execution. The realization gave Ben renewed determination to prove her risk worthwhile. Dr. Rivers had abandoned her protective position behind the boulder, now moving carefully around the clearing's perimeter, documenting the confrontation while avoiding direct involvement. Her scientific detachment provided stark contrast to the mythological conflict unfolding around her. A hunter spotted her movement and redirected human researcher as easy leverage. Before Ben could react, Selene appeared between them, her specialized blade severing the hunter's weapon with precision strikes that deliberately avoided lethal damage. Civilian safeguarding, the dragon hunter explained tersely to Dr. Rivers. Stay behind me. Heracles exploited Ben's momentary distraction, landing a devastating combination of strikes that cracked his crystalline form despite its enhanced durability. Ben staggered backward, golden energy working frantically to repair the damage. Your attention divides between too many concerns, Heracles observed clinically. Tactical error when facing superior opponent. The demigod pressed his advantage, each blow precise and measured, the product of millennia perfecting combat techniques against supernatural entities. Ben found himself driven backward despite his integrated form's significant power. Heracles' experience and specialized training proving decisive. The sanctuary entrance is opening, Julie called from across the clearing, her hands now sunk wrist-deep into the stone face, which had begun to shimmer with azure light. I need 2 more minutes. You don't have 2 minutes, Heracles stated calmly, redoubling his assault on Ben. A particularly powerful strike shattered Ben's crystalline arm, forcing him to his knees. The Omnitrix symbol on his chest flickered, the device struggling to maintain the damaged transformation. Heracles stood over him, divine energy gathering around his fist for a finishing blow. Surrender the dragon essence willingly, and your human form may survive intact. Continue resistance, and separation becomes messier. Before Ben could respond, silver light sliced between them, an arrow that embedded itself in the ground precisely at Heracles' feet. Not an attack, but an unmistakable warning. All combatants froze, attention shifting to Artemis, who stood with bow drawn and a second arrow nocked. Her divine radiance had intensified, silver light emanating from her form in palpable waves. Enough, she commanded, voice carrying divine authority that reverberated through the clearing. This conflict serves no productive purpose. Heracles lowered his fist slowly, confusion evident in his expression. Lady Artemis, your father's orders were issued without complete information, she interrupted. I invoke Article 7 of the Divine Intervention Protocols, right of primary domain authority in wilderness territories. The hunters immediately lowered their weapons, recognizing a direct invocation of divine law that superseded even Zeus's orders within specific jurisdictional parameters. Heracles' expression darkened with reluctant recognition. Article 7 requires justification beyond mere disagreement with Olympian direction, my lady. Cosmic threat assessment, Artemis stated formally. Evidence indicates Tartarian entities exploit barrier deterioration. Dragon vessels provide essential insight unavailable through standard Olympian resources. Her silver gaze intensified. Unless you wish to challenge my wilderness authority directly, Heracles. The implied consequence of such challenge hung unspoken between them. Even Zeus's favored son hesitated to directly confront an original Olympian operating within her primary domain. The demigod straightened, divine pride warring with tactical assessment. I'll report your invocation to Zeus directly. He may overrule Eve. N. Article 7 given current circumstances. He may, Artemis acknowledged coolly. Until then, these vessels remain under my wilderness protection. The sanctuary entrance chose that moment to complete its activation sequence. The rock face dissolved into shimmering azure light, revealing a passage similar to the Western sanctuary's entrance but styled with Eastern draconic aesthetics. Now, Julie called urgently. Ben disengaged from Heracles, the Omnitrix finally timing out and returning him to human form as he backed toward the sanctuary entrance. Golden energy continued flowing across his body, healing injuries sustained during combat. Astra and Selene retreated strategically, maintaining defensive positions while moving toward the passage. Dr. Rivers followed their lead, clutc. Her documentation equipment as she navigated the aftermath of supernatural combat with remarkable composure. Heracles watched their withdrawal with barely contained frustration. This merely delays the inevitable, dragon vessels. Zeus will not allow draconic resurgence regardless of Tartarian complications. Maybe he should consider whether those complications might require draconic assistance to address, Ben countered. Reaching the sanctuary threshold, the original dragons and gods worked together before Zeus rewrote history. Maybe that cooperation became necessary again. Something. G flickered across Heracles' expression. Not agreement, but perhaps the first seed of doubt. Zeus determines cosmic necessity, not awakening dragons. Perhaps Zeus's perspective requires expansion, Artemis suggested, maintaining her position between Heracles and the retreating group. Go, Heracles. Report what occurred here. Include my assessment of Tartarian involvement in the barrier deterioration. Let the Olympian Council determine appropriate response with complete information. The demigod hesitated a moment longer, then nodded sharply, acknowledgement without acceptance. He gestured to his hunters, who gathered their wounded and equipment with practiced efficiency. We withdraw under Article 7 recognition, he stated formally. This jurisdiction dispute will be resolved at Divine Council level. With that, Heracles and his hunters departed, moving with supernatural speed back up the mountain slope. The storm clouds Zeus had gathered remained, however, lightning still fli. Sea carrying among the dark masses, a reminder that divine attention continued despite the temporary withdrawal. Ben turned to Artemis, who remained separate from their group. You directly opposed Zeus's orders. Why? The goddess's expression revealed little, but her silver eyes carried complex emotion quickly suppressed. Because truth matters more than convenient narratives when cosmic stability hangs in balance. She glanced toward the sanctuary entrance. Go. The Eastern Sanctuary will provide temporary protection while I address Olympian protocols directly. You're not coming with us? Julie asked, surprise evident in her voice. I must return to Olympus to defend my Article 7 invocation, Artemis explained. Divine politics requires personal representation when challenging established directives. They'll punish you for helping us, Ben realized. Something like grim amusement flickered across Artemis's features. I've endured divine displeasure before. My domain grants certain flexibility in navigating Olympian hierarchy. The yokai spirits approached Artemis with formal movements that conveyed respect between ancient powers. Moon Hunter honors ancient accords, the Kitsune acknowledged. Eastern jurisdiction remembers. Artemis inclined her head in acknowledgement. Maintain appropriate vigilance. Zeus rarely accepts initial setbacks without escalation. We shall prepare accordingly, the crane spirit assured her. Ben felt compelled to offer something more substantial than mere thanks. We'll find evidence of Tartarian involvement, he promised. Conk. Read proof you can present to the Olympian Council. Intentions matter less than results, Dragon Vessel, Artemis replied, though without her usual coldness. But the effort is appreciated. She turned to Julie. The Eastern Sanctuary contains records about Azure Dragon techniques that counterbalance Western fire manifestation. Study them carefully. Proper integration between your dragon lineages may prove crucial in addressing barrier deterioration. Julie nodded solemnly. Thank you for your guidance. Artemis's attention shifted to Astra. Flame Keeper, your father's sacrifice praises. RVED truth that proved necessary in unexpected ways. Remember that when doubt arises. Ed Selene and Dr. Rivers together, hunter and scholar, your perspectives provide essential balance to draconic and divine viewpoints. Maintain objectivity when others succumb to historical biases. With these partings delivered, Artemis stepped away from the group. Silver light gathered around her form, moonlight condensing despite daylight hours. 3 days, she stated. I can maintain Article 7 protection for 3 days before Olympian Council review becomes mandatory. Use that time wisely. Before anyone could respond, she vanished in a flash of silver radiance, leaving behind only the lingering scent of wilderness and moonlight. Ben turned to the assembled group, Julie with her newly stabilized Azure Dragon energy, Astra clutching her Flame Keeper's bow, Celine maintaining vigilant assessment of potential threats, and Dr. Rivers still documenting everything with scientific precision. Into the sanctuary, he decided. We have work to do and not much time to do it. As they passed through the shimmering entrance, Ben felt the dragon essence within him responding to this new sacred SP. Ace. Different from the Western sanctuary yet connected through ancient cosmic architecture that transcended geographical and cultural divisions. The Eastern sanctuary awaited, its secrets potentially crucial for understanding how to address the cosmic threat that had inadvertently triggered their awakening. 3 days to find evidence compelling enough to convince even Zeus that dragon essence presented potential salvation rather than threat. 3 days to change the mind of the King of Gods, or face consequences that would make Heracles' assault seem gentle by comparison. Chapter 3 End. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.